and the simple back bends. All right, does anyone have any specific questions about that stuff that they want me to cover? Okay, just the general stuff? Okay. So we're going to start in a seated position on two blocks with our shins back, which is, for most people, the most basic way to start to sit. You can teach an entire yoga class without ever sitting, and you're going to have to be able to do that, right? Because if you don't have blocks, the general population shouldn't be sitting cross-legged or on their shins. It's just how that is. Yeah, no one's even going to notice that they didn't sit. Because you can do back, you can do tabletop, you can do standing, you can bang up 3 hours without having to sit if you needed to. Alright, so if we're sitting, we're going to bring those knees together, we're going to lift the skin of our knees and just draw it up and back a little bit, and we're going to get the baby toes down. Alright, so important when we're looking at people sitting, if their baby toes are way up like this, again, that external rotation of the lower leg is going to pull onto the inner knee. And then to stay longer, you just sit into your feet, like it's like your butt are kicking and you kick down. Nice. So if at any point you felt this in your knees, you'd come up into tabletop position and you'd add more height. This is like the basic seat. I wouldn't start a class here because the majority of people need to warm up their ankles before they can sit like this, right? So athletes, what have you, we're a room full of people that are up for doing 3 hours of yoga, so it's a different community than the average community that's going to walk into a drop-in or a rec center class, right? So I would normally start a class like this, but because it's nice for us to all see a neutral pelvis from this position, it can be really helpful. All right, so we're sitting. And then we're just going to look at our pelvis, right? So we're going to see if we can find the center of our sit bones. So I want you to feel your sit bones like 2 sticks going down into the block, right? And then see if you can come onto the front of the sticks. And then see if you can go onto the back of the sticks, middle of the sticks, front of the sticks, middle of the sticks, back to the sticks, middle of the sticks, front of the sticks. Does anyone feel like they're not getting that? Just moving the pelvis. Try not to move the shoulders and just notice how the shoulders move with that. Notice how the ribs tend to move with that. So the number one sitting habit is generally to sit behind the sit bones. And then notice what that does to your shoulders. Right? Notice, try to shake your head for now. Obviously not ideal. Right? Some people teach to sit on the front of the sit bones where you're sitting right on the perineum, which is okay. It takes it into what kind of a tilt? Anterior tilt. Yeah. Back of the sit bones would be posterior tilt. Center of the sit bones is neutral. Right? So just play. One thing about sitting in an anterior tilt is those lineages tend to need to sit on height, because if you took the block away to sit in your resting, you're going to feel your knees something like crazy. Like even in this body, it's pretty open. Whereas if I sit on the center of the sit bones, I don't feel my knees at all, which is interesting, right? All right, so we got that, right? So that's moving from imprint to arch, from anterior tilt to posterior tilt, posterior tilt. And so then, what's the second movement? Name one of the second movements. There's 2 more movements. Hips moving, up and down, like to the floor, away from the floor, and then forward back, right? So how do we move the hips forward back? Yeah, inject your femurs. So just inject your femurs and have your hands on your hip bones. And like notice what that does to your shoulders. And again, this isn't, I don't teach this to people that don't understand neutral pelvis, right? Because they're, move my femur, right? This is a different group. I always start what you learn after. It's how to do it on the back. But sometimes it's nice to see it. And before we learn how to move the femur, sometimes it's just nice to have the back, hands on the back, and just move your hips back into your hands, and then that causes you to move your femurs. See how that moves your femurs? Moves your knees. So sometimes that's easier than learning how to move your femurs or your kneecaps or knee creases, because those are all really sort of refined things, whereas you can feel this. So this is to the wall, away from the wall, forward and back, right? How about up, down, to the floor, away from the, to the armpit, away from the armpit, to the armpit, away from the armpit. What do you think? What are we going to do? Sit back into a chair, sit back into a chair, sit back into a chair, front thigh to back thigh, front thigh to back thigh, hip flex to the butt, hip flex to the butt. And then you can feel your hips and see what that does to your shoulders too. Does anyone feel like they're not getting that? You're getting it. Yes. Feel it turn to the side body too. So bulging on one side, bulging on the other side. Bulging, shortening on one side, shortening on the other side. Right? Because usually these are kind of like a level and they just level out. Often. Not always. So then imagine your right hip was back and your left hip was down, and then level out your shoulders. So take one hip down, one hip back, and then level out your shoulders. And a lot of people walk through life like that, right? The majority of people have a twisted, out of whack pelvis. And so if I don't try and fix, and I use the word fix because I do think we're fixable or changeable or strengthable, if I don't try and fix the base, then I'm just messing with this, and I'm just messing with this, and I never get to the root of the problem, if that makes sense. Does that kind of make sense? Right, so I always think start with the feet or the pelvis, whatever is the root of the pose. One day it's going to be your hands, right? But anyway. All right, so let's take that info to the floor. We're going to come onto the floor, onto our backs. I find it's easiest to teach neutral pelvis if people are really using their legs. So with women, I usually do the block at medium width because that is about a hip's distance for a lady. And then you could take this block between our thighs. For brand new people, I don't worry about the blocks, right? But if you've got a little bit of experience, this is kind of stage 2 of learning the pelvis. Some people with thicker thighs may need a thinner block, but usually in a bent knee position, it's okay. Me, I could almost go thinner if my thighs were a little bit thicker if I was bringing my legs up, if that makes sense. Just after pregnancy, I used a thinner block. But bent knee, it's usually not an issue. So coming down, feel the pubic bone, hip bones level, and then just like we learned in the previous class, find that neutral pelvis, push into your elbows, lengthen the back ribs away from the neutral pelvis, and then lengthen your head away from the neutral pelvis. Feel your ribs and encourage your ribs not to pop out. So neutral spine does not mean straight spine. It means neutral. It means that it's got the natural 4 curves that the spine has: the tailbone, the lumbar, the thoracic, and the cervical. Right? We want to keep those curves because those curves are the shock absorbers that allow our spines to be really mobile. And some of us have exaggerated or under whatever developed curves, and we just want to introduce as much of a neutral spine curve as we can. So let's start with just learning how to move that pelvis. We're going to imprint the low back. We're going to feel the pubic bone lift. We're going to take the pubic bone away from us. We're going to feel the back bend come in. We're going to imprint, and then we're going to arch. We're going to imprint, and we're going to arch. And so just like when most people sit down in a chair, they go into that posterior tilt where they're imprinting the low back. Most people, when they lie down on the floor, will do the same thing. Back and forth 2 more times. Is anyone having trouble finding this? And then stop with a nice neutral pelvis. Pubic bone, hip bones are level. Maybe from that neutral pelvis, you can lengthen the back ribs, lengthen the head, relax the shoulders a little bit more. So what's one of the second movements? You got 2 options here. So we've imprinted, arched.
Oh, now to the wall.
Yeah, so shortening one side, lengthening the other side. So to the armpit or to the wall, away from the armpit, away from the wall. And so the action for that is, nope, inject is to the floor, away from the floor. So what's sit your butt into a chair, front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin. Yeah. So front thigh to back thigh, front thigh to back thigh, front thigh to back thigh. The hip flexor one's kind of a combo. It does 2 things. So I usually just say front thigh to back thigh, sit your butt into a chair. Does anybody feel like they're not getting that? And again, if it's really challenging, brand new people, they're so lost, you don't want to touch them, you can always put their hands underneath their pelvis. And then sometimes it's easier to find it that way by actually initiating the movement at the pelvis. Everybody's getting it? And then stop once again with the neutral pelvis. And so the third and final motion is to the floor, away from the floor. So ideally, we're keeping the hip bones equal distance from the armpits, and then we're just going to move the hip bones to the floor, away from the floor. And how do we do that? Inject your femur, pull your knee down. Yeah. And again, big one to put the hands on the sacrum if someone was lost underneath their body. You can try that if you want. If not, it's all good. And then just feel how you could put the weight. I like to visualize either a sandwich, like a panini. As you squish that panini, you're going to squish one side, squish the other side, squish one side, squish the other side, right? And you feel the cheese and meat moving from side to side. And then you want to try and find the even panini so that no gooey stuff is going out any edge, but the cheese and the mustard is all spreading evenly. Or bubble wrap. You can visualize bubble wrap with the neutral pelvis, and you don't want to push down on one side or the other, front or back. With the bubble wrap, you want to keep it level so you're not popping your bubbles. And then find a nice neutral pelvis. Pubic bone, hip bones are level. And then try and keep that and just ditch your blocks, using your feet, using your thighs. Go back to bent knees. And then as we draw, and let's do this nice and slow together, right? Because again, I ask you questions because if you think about it and you make it like something you can figure out, you have it, you know it, you understand it. It's way more effective than memory, okay? So notice what happens to your pelvis as you lift the right leg up and you interlace your fingers over the right shin and you pull that right leg to you. Just go to your old habits. You can lose the neutral pelvis if you like. Can anyone tell me what generally happens? You imprint your low back, okay? What happens to the hip bones?
Higher on the right side.
Yeah, and lower on the right side. So the left hip bone generally lifts away from the floor. The right hip bone sinks to the floor, and generally you shorten from right hip bone to right armpit. So then in your own mind, what do you have to do to level that out? You inject the left, you sit the right butt into a chair, and you think front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin on the right leg. What happens?
Right side lengthens.
Yep. You inject the left femur, the left hip sinks, and then what happens to the stretch? Does it get stronger or softer?
Stronger.
Yeah. So you're activating muscles that in your particular body don't like to be activated, and you're stretching the muscles that you usually don't stretch, right? Because you're getting more of a stretch and you're working harder. Push your foot into an imaginary chair. Think of the back of the knee moving to the kneecap moving back to the knee, hip flexor moving to butt, butt hugging knee, ankle hugging heel. Maybe you want to straighten out that left leg. And by straightening that leg, generally the stretch gets deeper. If it's causing your shoulder heads to lift or your left shoulder to be higher than your right, how would you make your arms longer? Straps one option, taking your hands behind the thighs is another option. Armpits lifting towards the sky, shoulder heads melting. Again, that tendency to shorten on that left side, you want to really move that left hip towards the end of the mat, and the right hip towards the end of the mat, and the right armpit away from the hip towards the shoulder, but we don't let the shoulder lift, we want to keep the shoulders level. And then at the big toe mound and baby toe mound, equal distance from the knee. And then you could add anything you wanted to. Let's point and flex 5 times on that right foot. Let's do 5 circles one way. 5 circles the other way. So again, super tight population, athletic population, injured population, just warming up their ankles before you ever begin anything, always a good thing, right? And then stopping with a nice active foot. And then bending that left leg, bringing the sole of the left foot onto the floor. See if you can find a nice neutral pelvis. Release your hands, bring your hands beside you, straighten out that right leg. Feel the pubic bone, hip bones level. So bring your hands to your pelvis and feel your pelvis. So the tendency is the same, right? Right hip generally wants to be lower. Left hip wants to be higher. Sometimes the right armpit moves towards the right shoulder. So we have to strongly pull the left femur into the left hip socket. We gotta sit the right butt into a chair until we find neutral. And like anything, those of us that are really mobile could go too much in any direction. So if I sit my right butt into a chair, but I don't inject my femur, then my hip could actually shorten on the left side. Pushing through the sole of the foot, you may want to lengthen the ribs, you may want to lengthen the head, make sure the neck and the shoulders are relaxed. You can interlace your fingers behind the thigh. And then this is a great place to find front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin. It's a great place to find that injection of the hamstring. So hand pulling on thigh, and then the hand pulls the back of the thigh down towards the butt as you lengthen the calf towards the heel. Again, you want to go deeper, you straighten the other leg. And so the big thing as teachers that we're looking for is just tension. Is one shoulder higher than the other? Again, you could throw in 5 flex and curls, 5 circles one way, 5 circles the other way. And then once you've done your 10 circles, flex the foot, sole of the foot flat, curl your toes like you're holding on to a pencil, point your foot like a dancer, flip your toes back to you. Flex, curl, point, and flip, flex, curl, point, and flip. Flip the toes, keep the toes nice and active like Barbie. See if you can flip your baby toes as much as your big toes. It's weirdly hard. And then flex the sole of the foot so the sole of the foot is flat. No wrinkles in the heels. Thigh into hand, hand into thigh. Lengthen the inner line of the leg from inner groin to inner knee to inner ankle to inner heel. We often shorten in those inner heels, so lengthen those inner heels. Inner heel to big toe mound level with inner heel. Big toe mound comes around to baby toe mound, over the toe mound arch in the back of the foot, and then baby toe mound on a lot of us has to draw back to us. Baby toe mound to outer heel draws back to outer ankle comes down to outer knee comes back to outer trochanter's connect. Going to that fleshy bit of your thigh, pulling it to one another. The trochanter is the head of your femur bone, your thigh bone, it's that sort of knuckle bit inside the joint, and the outer part is the part that's closest to the thicker part of your thigh. So to move them, what I think of doing is going to where my thigh kind of meets my butt, and on those women indents, and I draw those 2 points together, where we get that anal sphincter contracting as if your butt was holding on to a cork and pulling up. And then that just makes a whole different pose. Digging our heel into an imaginary wall and thinking about pulling that heel down towards the butt helps to fire up the hamstring, and then pulling both femurs into the hip sockets is also a nice connection. But again, some people pull too much femur into their hip socket, and then their hip would be lower, right? So looking for that level balance. Let's just go 2 more breaths here. Let's get you a strap. Just get my arm to the right. And then bend that knee, bring that foot into the floor, and let's just do those 2 poses on the other side. So pubic bone, hip bones level, lengthen the ribs away from the pelvis, relax the shoulders, lengthen the head away from the shoulders. Keeping that nice neutral pelvis. Knowing our habits, some of us are imprinters, some of us are overarchers, some of us pop our rib cage, some of us let our shoulders lift. So knowing your body and making the adjustments you need to make, trying to remember them so that from pose to pose to pose, you can do less fidgeting. So again, pubic bone, hip bones are level. Let's draw that left leg to us. Let's interlace, and let's just go into it without a neutral pelvis. Just let that leg come in as close as it likes. Let the knee go out to side. Let the ankle come in, which is kind of an average habit. If I do that, I feel absolutely nothing. No stretch, no nothing. Whereas if I can pull my right femur in, I lift my left thigh away from me, I take my left ankle, left knee, left hip into a neutral position where they're running in a straight line, where on both legs my inner thighs are dropping the block, on both legs my outer thighs are squeezing the block. Front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin, injecting my hamstring, creases to caps, caps hugging creases. Feet pushing into an imaginary floor. Strong left butt sitting into a chair, strong right femur pulling into the hip. And then if I can keep a nice neutral pelvis, I'm going to straighten out that right leg, maybe a little bit, maybe a lot. Just really focusing on your body from the inside, noticing if the right shoulder is higher than the left shoulder. Yeah, I want you to think of calf lifting too. Yeah. Some of you are calf lifting. On the left leg? Yeah, on both legs, but on the left leg in particular. Because that's the connection and you're not doing it. Yeah, front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin. Yeah. Why do you think?
No, it changed it.
It's stability or mobility. So if the thigh's going this way, what's going to happen to the knee if the calf's not going the other way? Armpits lift up into shoulders, shoulders relax over the armpits, back of the armpits, moving forward to the front to lift your sternum bug up towards your throat and broaden the ribs, those legs of the sternum bug, broaden the collarbones. And then point and flex 5 times, do 5 circles one way, 5 circles the other way. Stopping with those circles once they're done, finding nice active feet, big toenails, baby toenails level, thinking of that inner line of the leg lengthening, thinking of that outer line of the leg drawn back. So hips, distance. There we go. And again, just bringing it in so it's less loosey-goosey, because when things like, you know, your versions, everything you want to be more. If it's somewhere, it's everywhere. It's like too much salt in the recipe. And then let's bend the right leg, trying to maintain a neutral pelvis. So nice and slow, refined movements. Move the hands behind the thigh, push the thigh into the hands as the hands pull back on the thigh. Hip flexors towards butt, right thigh front to back, left thigh front to back, right femur pulls in, but to balance that, kneecap is pulling down on the back of the knee, back of the knee is lifting into kneecap. Watch that you're not popping the ribs if that's your habit. Watch that one shoulder's not popping more than the other. Watch that you're not shortening the back body or the front body. And then if you want to start to straighten out that right leg, do, but move slowly. It's during these transitions that we tend to lose the connections, and it's easier to keep a neutral pelvis than it is to lose it and find it. Kind of like a toddler in an airport. Really find the crease of the ankle moving towards the heel, heel pushing back into the crease. Use your hands to find that connection of front thigh, back thigh, and then pull the hamstrings to meet the quad and pull the hamstrings towards the butt as the quad is going to lengthen towards the knee, and it just goes to a completely different realm. Calves sliding away from the heels. Feet are active. Inner thighs are dropping a block, outer thighs are squeezing a block. Inner line of the leg lengthens from inner groin to inner knee. Inner knee to inner ankle lengthens the inner heels, which tend to shorten on a lot of people. Bring it through to the big toe mound, lengthen. Big toe mound travels over to baby toe mound draws back down to the earth. Baby toe mound to outer heel to outer ankle to outer knee to outer trochanter's connect. Anal sphincter contracts and draws up, mula bandha, pelvic floor muscles engage and draw up. I like to go to that thicker bit of my outer thigh and really move it away from my left armpit. And then let's point and flex 5 times. Let's do 5 circles one way, 5 circles the other way. So majorly therapeutic pose, these intense leg stretches. So this leg is straight. Yeah, and if this leg doesn't straighten, we bend this leg. So it's more important to have the left leg as straight as you can as opposed to the right leg straight. A little bend is fine, but and then once you've done your 10 circles, let's flex the foot, sole the foot flat. With the sole of the foot flat, we're going to curl the toes like we're holding onto a pencil. We're going to point the foot like a dancer. We're going to flip the toes back to us. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Flex, curl, point, and flip. One more round. Flex, curl, point, and flip. Keep the toes flipped. Try and spread them. See if you can bring the baby toes towards your face. So weird. And then flex your foot, sole of the foot flat. And just breathe in here. And then bend the right leg, bend the left leg, bring the feet onto the floor. Let's roll off to the side. So let's just look at that. So again, we're just breaking the series down. So roll off to the side. So one of the tricks, right? So can anyone give me a reason as to why we don't just start like this? Like, and a lot of people just want to do this and come right into it. Any thoughts?
I think it's hard on your knee, that would be my guess.
It's harder on your knee. Yeah, it's harder to find a neutral pelvis, right? So especially in a super mobile body, like someone like you, Lara, like I used to be super, super hypermobile for whatever reason. It's just, yeah, she could probably, like, I mean, if I let go, I can bring this right to the floor. Not that that's necessarily bad because I'm countering it, but I could do it and hyperextend my knee and I could throw my shoulder out and I could totally lose the pelvis too, right? And I mean, I can do that and not, like I can do this and not have a stretch. If I totally lose my pelvis, I can do this, I feel absolutely nothing, right? And it looks quite epic, right? See how my ribs are popping, see how my shoulders are even, and it's just like, I don't, it's just, I can just hang out there and probably go to sleep. Whereas if I found a neutral pelvis, like I like to stack the joints, because my understanding, and science is always changing, but if you stack the joints, the ligaments don't have to work as hard, and you get like this structure, so it's really easy to find a neutral pelvis. There's no tension, you can find all the connections, and then you can go further keeping those connections, and you can find that sort of evenness, right? Does that kind of make sense, right? And it's just, I can get a really good stretch here, I can get a really good stretch here, I can get a hamstring stretch here, I can get a quad release here, I can get an IT band stretch here. If you can't, why can't you? Like,
Firing brain muscles.
you might be still firing the muscles because you're holding them here. Sometimes it's mind-body connection, right? So it's like just because you can't move or feel the back of the knee and move it to your kneecap doesn't mean the back of the knee doesn't exist. Does that make sense? Yeah. Just because I can't feel my intercostal muscles and use them to move my rib cage yet doesn't mean that I don't have intercostal muscles, and it doesn't mean that I can't use them or that they're not strong. Maybe I've done 600 years of core. It just means I don't feel them. So there's just a missing link between my mind and my body, right? Some people have a really strong mind-body connection and some people don't. There's amazing athletes that don't have an amazing body-mind connection. Yeah. So with yoga, what we're trying to do is feel it. So number one, we don't hurt it, because you could do the splits forever, for example. She might be able to, we could push her into them. She could push herself into them, but she wouldn't be able to walk for 3 days and her joints would hurt. So she could do, say for example, a yoga class, especially a hot yoga class where there's tons of people in the room, it's really warm in the room, and she goes super, super deep without alignment, and then that would cause her to suffer. And we don't want her to suffer. The idea is to avoid the suffering that is yet to come. But she wouldn't feel that in the moment, right? And then you have the other extreme, people that feel everything, right? If they're super tight. But even super tight people sometimes don't feel things. It's, it's just no rhyme, no reason to it. Just is what it is, right? So let's look at, when I'm doing a series, I will do kind of like a release and then a lengthen, right? And then a release, and then I go back to some strengthening, right? So if I strengthen something, I'm always going to try and stretch it, right? Whether it's this, or this. So when I came up with, over 15 years I've done hip series 1, it's like there's one, then you release it, then you do a strengthen, then you do a stretch, then you do whatever muscle you're doing, you try and counter that, right? So there is some rhyme and reason to the sequencing, but you can sub it out, or if you want to do extra strengthening, you could do a double strengthen and then a stretch. Personally, I go strengthen, stretch with the hip series, and I'm looking to get as many motions as I can. All right? Most people need a hip flexor and a hamstring opener before they can do the alternate leg lifts, right? If that makes sense. I have to start saying if that makes sense because I say it way too much. All right. So if we're doing number 4 pose, if I wanted to make it less intense here, what would I do? That's going to instantly make it easier. So if someone's like, oh, I feel it in my knee, it's tugging me in my back. I would be like, oh, get in the pose, right? I'd be like, okay, let's pull this knee a little bit so it's safe. I might support it, and we're just going to slide that away. Or if they're here and they can't get their ankle up, and this is more common than you think, right? And there's no way those people are holding a neutral pelvis, and that's okay. You just have to know how they can do the pose without. I've only in my entire time of teaching had 2 people that couldn't do this. Okay, so the odds of you guys getting one of those 2 people pretty slim, right? And in that circumstance, when you're checking your strap, what I did with them, just because again it's info, you never know which Laura's in a different position than the rest of you. So then what I did with that person is just this, right? And I just supported them. It was in a private, right? I wasn't teaching them in a group class. I had a block here, right? You can always find a way to do it, and then I personally moved their leg. All right, so from here, when we come in, again, if we lose that neutral pelvis, this is the tendency. What's the first dead giveaway that makes it look that I can see your pelvis through your clothing?
Can you say that again?
What are the dead giveaways that sometimes it feels like I can see your pelvis through your clothing?
Oh, I thought that's what you said. I was like, the twists.
Yeah, my shoulders, I'm twisting. You can see from my butt that this sit bone is way higher than that sit bone. Yeah. This is a huge giveaway. My knee not being in line with my hip. So if I pull this femur in, you see what happened? Look what happened to my whole shoulder spine back, right? The other dead giveaway that they're not doing this, which means, again, most people aren't gonna have a neutral pelvis. It's the actual neutral pelvis that going through their hips is this, right? Like most people are not doing this. So it's super easy to say inner knee to outer knee. Sometimes I come and say push my hand away. And you don't have to adjust you, you don't have to move their body. It's like literally just, hey, lift my fingers. And they'll lift as far as they can. Right, front thigh to back thigh, if they're doing this, right, it's front thigh to back thigh, get your legs away from you. And I mean, I can personally do that and almost get a neutral pelvis, but that's not the average body. What are the really important ones in this pose to keep the knees safe?
Oh, flex your ankles.
Flex your ankles, yeah, and then someone else said something else?
Active feet.
Active feet, yeah. And then the hinge, right? So often, and one of the most common injuries is moving in and out of lotus or bent knee positions, from seated positions to straight leg positions, is not being mindful. We get this outer knee thing, yogis. So for me, it's like, I always, when I have new people, I'm like, your knee is a hinge. It opens and closes like the door, the ball and socket of the hip. Have you guys heard me say that? Of course you have, right? Hip is a ball and socket. You're supposed to be moving from the hip. So you make sure your knee's a hinge and you make sure your hip's a ball and socket. If I'm worried, then I'll make them hold on to their knee to remind their knee it's a ball and socket, especially if we're doing it at the wall because it's a deeper pose, right? There's less space between your ankle and the knee, so they're more likely to A, lift up their back, or B, tweak their knee. Because this is here, right? So there's more hip flexibility needed to come into position. Right? Makes sense? Alright, so let's give it a go. Knees
So
together.
is that why when you come out of that pose, you always say draw the bent leg towards your chest?
I say pull your knee
Or
towards your navel, so
Yeah.
then what happens? You uncross.
Yeah.
Because if you blow this out like that, if someone's really tight, if your hips are tight, then your knee becomes a hip, which is why tight hips cause the majority of knee and back pain. They see in the like 85-90% range. But so if you remind your hips that they're hips, then your knee does not have to be a hip. But if you're working with a population, your age group, for example, where tight hips are an epidemic, even though it's every age, but it's like how many people do you know that tight hip replacements?
Oh,
yeah,
every
so
other
much.
person I know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those people are way more at risk for their hips to hurt their knee. So that's why I get extra chatty about it. Yeah. So it's so you just wanna and that visual I think really helps, and then you remind them that this is a hinge. And that this does not become a ball and socket. If they pull it in, it stays a hinge, you pivot at the hip, then you release the knee, then you bring it down.
So basically you're using your hip rather than your knee. Is that the
Yeah,
message? Okay.
that's exactly the message.
Right.
Alright, let's do it. Knees together, feet together, hands behind the thighs, make a nice C, coming down one disc, one vertebra at a time, nice and slow. Find that nice neutral pelvis. Knees and feet are a hips distance apart. So we're going to draw that right leg to us. We're going to make sure that that right knee stays a hinge. You can put your hand there. You're going to pivot at the ball and socket, which is an external rotation of the right thigh. And you're going to hook that right ankle on the outside of the left knee. And then for fun, fire up your ankles, fire up your heels, slide the heel away from you, slide the heel to you. And then visualize a block underneath your foot. Even before a block, you could lift up your toes and then really move your hip flexors towards your sit bones, really move the backs of the knees to the kneecaps, really inject the femurs. Think about lengthening from inner groin to inner knee to outer knee on that right leg. Outer knee draws back towards the outer trochanter's connect. All the action of the leg just really helps you to find the pelvis. You might be able to lengthen the ribs away. You might be able to lengthen the head away. Then try and keep the pelvis. Put your foot on an imaginary block. Notice how that will deepen the stretch. Put your foot on an imaginary wall. Notice how that changes the stretch. And you start to feel it, you start to build this mind-body connection, this body awareness, and then next time someone says, oh, my upper left hip is tight, you're like, oh, I know exactly how to get in there because I've done number 4 pose and thread the needle and every possible variation of that so many times that I know exactly how to get in there. And then maybe you go with a block, maybe you go with a strap, maybe you go with your hands, interlacing your fingers behind the thigh. And then just for kicks and giggles, we're going to lose all that. We're going to imprint. We're going to go back to a position of less awareness. And just notice where it goes to. Yeah, if you pulled those legs and jammed them into your body, you're still going to probably be able to get a stretch somewhere. It's likely going to eventually tug on your outer knee. Right? You'll be able to find a stretch, but you're going to have to search for it. And then go back to a neutral pelvis-ish or a full neutral pelvis. Find all those beautiful connections that you're memorizing, and then slowly make your way back into the posture with more mind-body connection. And it's likely not even in remotely the same area that your body's habit is. Does anyone find that it is in the same area that your body habit was when you weren't using the pelvis? So that is why people can do yoga for 35 years and never ever open their hips. Never ever be able to sit on their heels. And always have back and hip pain. Because they just keep stretching the same spots and strengthening the same spots, right? And our job is to figure out our habits and then develop different habits, right?
Can I ask about shoulders?
Mm-hmm.
What are they doing? Or should they be?
You tell me.
Do they eventually touch the ground?
I mean, they might not. Yeah.
But that's where we're heading?
I don't know. Not all the way down, I don't think. I mean, your idea of shoulders down is your perspective of what that feels like and looks like is going to be so different than what maybe my
I
perspective.
feel like I have a gap here, but my shoulder blade is down.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
So what don't I want? Show me what I don't want. Yeah. So what do you do to get rid of that?
Tuck into my back pocket.
No. You're lifting your armpits up and you're relaxing your shoulders. I've never in my life said tuck your shoulder blades in your back pocket ever.
Okay.
That will rip your shoulder.
That's the thing we were talking about earlier.
That you don't want to do. Yeah, there can't be a yang without a yin. There can't be one motion without another motion.
So this is.
So if you say drop your shoulders down your back, right, you're just going to shorten your back body, which is terrible. It sends you into an anterior tilt in a standing position. In this position, it's just going to mess up your back. So you want to think armpits lifting up, shoulder heads relaxing to the floor, shoulders relaxing away from the ears. I've never ever said put your shoulder blades in your back pocket except for in the one circumstance where I was saying don't do it.
Yeah, I think I got
Yeah.
confused when you said that earlier.
Yeah. Well, you've probably heard it 100 times in yoga class, for sure you have, because every yoga class I go to, it's said too much. But there's a lot of shoulder injuries because of that cue. Is that?
Yeah, thank you.
And maybe it works on some bodies. Who knows? Like I don't know at all.
Sometimes you have the risk of tearing your shoulder blade.
It certainly wouldn't work on your body.
No.
No. Because you need length, not shortening my back body, not shortening one side. Yeah. So what's important with the shoulders? What's the number one cue? Can you shake your head for no? Is one shoulder higher than the other? Right? Can we lengthen our hip flexors and our armpits in two directions? Can we relax our shoulders away from our ears? Just relax. Anytime you're talking shoulders, relax. And the shoulder heads melt to the floor as the skin of the armpits lift up. Can you find your sternum bug? So June's going to stay exactly as she is. Everybody else is going to release, mindful of their knee, come out, roll off, and come over here and we'll check it out. And there's no right, there's no wrong, it's just workshop learning. So you're going to stay exactly as you are, June, and then we're going to take a look and we're going to see what we see. Is that how I started this? Yeah.
Is
So
that
don't change anything, just leave it. Just let us look, and then we'll change things,
I think
okay?
both feet need it.
Yeah. So she could have energy in both feet for sure. Anything else?
The right shoulders.
Yeah, she's twisting. You see it's jamming her right neck. Is she moving front thigh to back thigh? A little bit on the left leg, but not on the right leg. And it's not wrong, and it's not right. Do you know what I mean? So she could like have height, for example, and we're just gonna put your heel on height. So just let your heel come down and just release your arms. Just let go of your arms. Yeah. And then dig your heel into that block. Yeah. And then lengthen here so you get rid of those wrinkles. Yeah. So push your foot into that block. Push your foot into that block. Yeah, there we go. So what a difference just already, right? And then she's going to think about this femur pulling in just a little bit, and then she's going to think front thigh to back thigh. So she's going to lift her thigh into this block. So push into my block. Yeah, there we go. And then she's going to lengthen from inner groins to inner knees, and without any of this changing, so the only thing that's going to move is she's going to move that into the block. Yeah. So way different, so much better, right? And look at her shoulders, so much better.
And she's lengthened through the.
Well, and she's actually probably getting a better stretch. She may or may not feel it.
She's tired.
And then if I wanted to get even finickier, I'd make her really lengthen her back body because she's like this, which is making her shoulders swell up her neck a little bit. Does that make sense? But we're just going to work on the legs for now because that's her foundation. We don't want to pick 650 things. What's most
And my
important?
knees feel fine.
What's that?
My knees feel fine. That's why I was getting tired, so I relaxed this because my knee is fine. So I don't know.
Take it or leave it. Totally up to you.
Michelle, can I ask, what were you?
But she couldn't sit on her heels when I met her, and she couldn't reach her foot, and now she can. So I think we're going the right direction.
What were you noticing when you said she needs to be front thigh to back thigh?
Just no energy, good energy. And like you're not gonna see energy. Do you know what I mean? Like I can just see where you're not, where there's no juice, right? And that's 32 years.
I was curious.
Everybody, June, I could pick anyone in this room and it would be the same story. We'd be able to find something.
No, I'm just saying there was no energy.
Yeah, she's tired, yeah. But there would be no energy in one part of your body, there'd be no energy in my body, and I wouldn't be able to see it. I would probably need someone else to see it because we can't see our own shit. That's why community's good, that's why you always need a teacher, I think. Does that make sense?
So helpful watching.
Yeah. Well, it's so great to see it on different bodies because A, we're gonna have different students, and B, if you see it on someone else, you can see it in yourself. And when you see it on yourself, and when you fix it on yourself, you can teach it. I really honestly think it's hard to teach something unless you really know it. It's just information until you've felt it, seen it, dealt with it, moved on from it. That's why I didn't teach pregnant ladies until I had kids. All right, so let's do the other side, all right? And then we'll look at a different body. And we'll do the exact same thing. So move slow. Again, you can't memorize this stuff until you've walked in the body, right? So if you're going to teach, or even if you just want to know for your own personal understanding of the body, it's like play with it, right? So you're going to find your neutral pelvis. We just did the right side, we're just going to do the left side. We're going to lengthen the backwards away from the pelvis. We're going to relax the shoulders. We're going to lengthen the head away from the shoulders. Keeping that nice neutral pelvis. The left leg's going to come to us. We're going to keep the bend. We're going to externally rotate. We're going to hook the ankle on the outside of the knee. And then just for fun, draw the knee in, uncross, slide the leg away from you, rotate, and see how it's easier to hook it and it's less of a stretch. And then keeping the feet active, no wrinkles, slide the right heel towards the butt, keep the pelvis neutral, feel the weight even in the two sides of the ribs, feel the weight even in the two sides of the shoulders. So another way to describe that is a panini sandwich across the entire back body, right? You could say bubble wrap under the ribs, bubble wrap under the shoulders. We don't want to pop the left side of the bubble wrap. We don't want to have the cheese and meat popping out the right side of the panini. Like, so you just use your imagination, find ways to describe things. Right femur pulls in, find your hip flexors moving to your butt, find the backs of the knees moving to the kneecaps, find the ankle crease moving towards the heels. Lengthen the inner heels. Front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin. So some of us, like Laura and Nicole, think of the calves lifting up into the shins. That's a hard one to find. Inner line of the leg lengthens, so groin to knee. Here we could go knee to ankle, to heel, to big toe mound, to baby toe mound. Baby toe mound draws back. Notice when I put the block on Jean's foot, she literally had to change the entire angle of her foot, drawing the baby toe mound back. Baby toe mound to heel, heel to ankle, ankle to outer knee. Inner knee to outer knee on that left leg. Without the pelvis moving, you're gonna be able to access that hip and free up any pinching. And then outer knees to outer trochanter's to come to one another, anal sphincter contracts and draws up. And then just like before, just lift your heel up and test drive that. You may slip into your habit. If you lose your calves or your heels and you know that's a correction I make on you consistently, then that should be your mantra. Front ribs to back ribs was probably my mantra for 3 years. Laura, inner thighs to outer thighs, I'm guessing 5 years. Then imagine there's a block underneath your foot. Find your foot on a block. Dig your right heel into that block. Notice how that shifts things. See if you can find that hamstring. Pull that hamstring back into your butt by digging your heel into an imaginary block. Maybe use a strap, maybe use your hands. Oh, we forgot wall. Imagine your right foot's at a wall. Push your foot into that wall. Find all those same connections, and then maybe go a little bit deeper to interlace. Every time I do the right side, I interlace my right hand on top of my left. Every time I do the left side, I interlace my left hand on top of the right. Big, beautiful breaths. And so it becomes a tug of war of the legs and the arms. You don't have to keep a neutral pelvis. You can imprint the pelvis. Yoga, there are plenty of poses that are not neutral pelvis, but it's always the energy, action, muscles, whatever of neutral pelvis.
Calf thing is really hard.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah. And then just like we did on the other side, let go of everything neutral pelvis related, let go of all your creases to caps and just pull it in. Or if you've got your foot on a heel on a block, just let it go loosey-goosey. See if you still can go into your habit and find a stretch, notice where it is. And then go back to the neutral pelvis, see if you can find it. Can you shake your head for no? And then Jessica's gonna stay, and we're all gonna come out mindfully, releasing our hands, remembering our knee is a hinge, drawing the knee towards the navel to uncross, open up the back of the leg. And then bring that foot to the floor, roll off, and let's come take a look, and let's just see what we see. I'm just trying that finger, that's so hard. As soon as you're like, right. And she's right, we get like, the longer we hold it, the less we're gonna be doing it exactly how we started, right? So what does anybody see? It's hard, she's got a nice nose.
She's so excited with this.
She's shortening on this side, just a little bit. Anything else? What I will do, because I'm particular, is I'm going to take her ankle here, because it's working towards more of a different opening in the hip and the knee, and she'll actually be able to get a lot deeper into the hip by doing that.
Angle on the outside.
Yeah. So I'll show you, because when you sit half lotus, it's just how you open the hip in a specific way. Yeah. So then what we're going to do is we're going to let this foot come down just for a sec. And then I want you to really think about sitting this butt into a chair. Yeah, there we go. And then inject this femur, nice. And then get rid of this wrinkle here. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm gonna take this ankle right there. So what I think of is the ankle's here, and if I split it back, it would hook just on the outside of the leg. Right? And so see how it's a little bit closer? Nice. And then just gonna think about this coming into my hand. So you're gonna, and then lift the kneecap up. Nice. Relax your shoulder heads, lift your armpits up. So where I want to see more energy in her body in most of her poses is, and think of what she does for a living, right? She gives. Relax your shoulders there, and then I want you to lift my fingers up. Lift up, lift up. Like you could pull your broad line through to your sternum. Nice. Move the skin of the armpits up. There. Let's see, there we get it. And then this is going to broaden eventually. So she does this a lot all day.
It's funny, when I do this side, because the side's tighter,
Yeah.
I struggle trying to keep my neck neutral.
Yeah.
I keep getting caught in this. I'm always like,
Yeah.
trying to reposition my upper body and my neck.
Yeah. And so what would you suggest she do just for a while to get that? Strap or a block. In her case, I even consider a wall or a couple blocks because she can really get the action of the leg in, right? So I would probably do this, like that, and like that, right? And then so she can still work her heel forward and back. Plus her shoulders work freaking hard all day. Like, does she need to go and strengthen them? You know, some of us do, but she doesn't really need to. And then one more time, let's find that foot. Nice. Yeah, that's so nice. And then we're gonna bring this to me. It's nice, eh? And then I'd say with her cactus arms, these arms, and then just really trying to get those arms to open as opposed to closing, which is her habit at work. In your home practice, or even here in yoga, right? Like why? You did this all day. Come here, do this. Make sense? How does that feel? And you get a better hip stretch too, right? And if you wanted more hips, your arms aren't getting in your way, you could just drag your heel towards, well first you take your heel down and then you can just move your heel towards you. And then just keep moving your thighs and knees to knee. So that's a deeper hip stretch than you get using your hands and down the neck.
Physical nursing that variation.
It's a great variation. Yeah. And if you put it like, I don't like it on the tallest height because then it's wobbly, and as she opens, she can't go deeper and deeper and deeper. Here she still has this much room to slide. And if if that wasn't enough, she could bring it way back here, and then she had all that room to slide her heel. But if it was too much, she could slide her heel away. She starts to pinch or fatigue or whatever. Make sense? And then to come out of it, she just slides away. She's gonna lift up her foot, bring it down onto the floor, and then she's gonna be mindful of her knee coming out of it. Right? So many people come with necks like this, and why are they doing this? But she could also use a strap. In this thing, we can use a strap as much because of the ankles, but in intense leg stretches, for example, where you want to use a strap to action the foot, elbows on the floor, and you can still have this chest as opposed to this chest. Make sense? Good. All right, so let's keep going. Coming back into a nice neutral pelvis, knees together, feet together, make a nice C, come down one vertebra at a time, nice and slow. Knees and feet are hips distance apart, pubic bone, hip bones are level, push into your elbows, lengthen the back ribs away from the pelvis, relax your shoulders away from your ears, make sure the back of the neck is nice and long. So let's go back into a quick number 4 pose on the right leg, because that's where generally we'd end off, right? And then we take the right knee towards our navel, we'd uncross the right leg, and we'd open up the back of the right knee. So what are the risks here? What might this be really hard on? And it's really hard because most of us have done this so much we can't remember what was really hard about it.
Lower back.
Lower back, bam. So the minute it tugs into your low back, and I say this in every single class, every single time I teach this, even after all these years, I say, if you feel it in your low back, what do? Bend your knee. And so try it with a bent knee, right? And the basic core series is bent knee, right? So just do a bent knee, notice how much easier that is. Notice how much gentler that is on your back muscles. And then straighten out your leg. And just notice how it gets heavier and harder. Neutral pelvis is way more important than a straight leg. If your right leg is straight, then that's easy peasy. Then you could choose to straighten out the left leg. But if that causes you to bend the right knee, go back to a bent left leg. And then here with the bent knee, you can watch people's knees to see if they've got a stronger outer thigh or inner thigh connection. So with you, June, I'd go back to a bent left knee because you have a hard time keeping that straight and it's not smooth, it's a little bit jerkier. So you want the lowering and the lifting to be equal speed, equal pace. That's the same word. Equal speed, consistent. And how would you make it harder if both legs are straight? Lifting the left heel would make it even harder if you had put someone that needed to make it harder. Sometimes I teach flex as you lower, point as you lift. I usually say exhale, flex your foot lower down, point your toe, inhale, lift. So again, you're creating more mind-body connection. So yeah, they can lift and lower, lift and lower. They can be thinking about, what they did yesterday, what they're gonna do the next day, what's gonna happen for dinner. But if you add 2 more things, right? Nothing else moving, ribs not popping, shoulders not moving, and then you time the breath with the body, we create this bridge of mind-body awareness. And it makes them breathe. So when I'm new to a class, or this is not, something they've done a lot, I would just stick with this, and then I would continue with the series. We all know the series really well, so we're gonna add heel slides. So next time that right leg comes down, we're gonna tap the right heel to the floor, pelvis isn't gonna change, nothing else is gonna change. We're gonna drag the right heel to the right sit bone, keeping the right ankle, right knee, right hip in a straight line. We're gonna drag the right heel away from the right sit bone. And then just a few times, just like that, drag the right heel to the right sit bone, drag the right heel away from the right sit bone. And if that's easy peasy, lift your heel off the floor and hover it. So it's almost touching the floor. It's as close to the floor as it can be, but it's not touching down. Not allowing any tendencies to creep in, trying to maintain a neutral pelvis, trying not to pop the rib cage. I generally teach a down dog arm here unless someone's having a really hard time with the pelvis, where our arms are beside us, the shoulders distance apart, pushing into the fingers, pushing into the palms, rooting the elbows, rooting the shoulders. Externally rotating the upper arm, internally rotating the lower arm. And then let's combine alternate leg lifts with our heel slides. The next time we straighten out that right leg, we're going to inhale to bring that right leg straight up. We're going to exhale to bring that right leg straight down. We're going to inhale to drag the heel towards the butt. We're going to exhale to drag the heel away from the butt. We're going to inhale to bring that leg back up. No change in the pelvis. We're going to exhale to bring that leg back down. And just bending, straightening, lifting, lowering. To make it easier, you bend one or both knees. To make it harder, you straighten the left leg, float the heel. No tension in the neck, no tension in the shoulders. Often coming up, we're a bit jerky. So really trying to slow down the up just as much as we slow down the lower. And then the next time that leg comes up, pull that leg up unless you need a break. And if you need to, bend the left knee. If you need to, bend the right knee. See if you can find the sole of the foot flat. And for this next one, I usually put my hands on my pelvis, so I encourage my pelvis not to move at all. And then I think of a tray of drinks on my foot. I try and get my big toe mound as far away from my baby toe mound. Try and find a nice level foot, and then we're going to draw circles with the heels. With the hands on the pelvis, you want to encourage the pelvis not to move. And they can be little tiny circles. They are not D's. And then if it's easy peasy, the circles could get bigger. If it's still easy peasy, the left leg could straighten, or you could float the heel. So again, multi-level class. If someone's knee was bent, they would draw circles with their kneecap. Trying not to move the foot, just really thinking about that head of the femur, the trochanter, moving right inside the hips. You get lots of movement there, Laura, so refine it. Go smaller, and don't move the pelvis. That's better. Change direction with the circles. So what do you feel you need to release?
My groin's really tight.
Hip flexor groin. Yeah. So what are you going to do? You're going to release it, right? That's what comes next.
Some method to the madness.
So you could do, well, I think we all know what pose comes next. Sleepy cow. So then when you're done, you're going to bend your left leg, you're going to cross your right leg nice and tight over your left leg. If they couldn't do this, half wind remover would do, right? Full wind remover would do too. Try and find your hip bones, equal distance from the floor, equal distance from the armpits. Try and find a neutral pelvis. Here, generally, the torso shortens a little bit, so a lot of people can find that lengthening of the ribs and the lengthening of the neck. And then it's the same option. Slide the foot away. Everybody do it for less stretch. Slide the foot to you for more stretch. Lift up your toes, a little more stretch. Lift up your heel, a little more stretch. You could put your foot on a block. You could use a strap, or you could interlace your fingers behind your thighs. Push through those feet. Get rid of the wrinkles in the heels. Find the activity of the toenails. Find the activity of the toes. And then pull your hip flexors towards your sit bones. Take the backs of the knees towards the kneecaps. Kneecaps go back towards the backs of the knees. Crease of the heels, crease of the ankles towards the heels. Heels hug back. Front thigh to back thigh. Inject your hamstrings with the use of your hands, pulling them to the quads, the front thighs, and pulling them down towards the butt. Inject your femurs, sit your butt into a chair. Can you easily shake your head for no? If not, get longer arms by using a strap or a block. Inner thighs dropping the block, outer thighs squeezing the block. Shoulders melting, armpits lifting. What's that? So Nicole made an interesting point. She's like, I've never seen that variation of a foot on a block. People are doing your class all the time with their foot on the block. I give that cue every single class. So it means that not that you're in your practice in your body, which is amazing, but now that you're becoming a teacher, you're also using a group class to see what other people are doing. So position yourself next to people, different people, and see what they're doing.
I think it was just this, the way you stack them.
Right, that particular stacking, yeah.
They just like the two for
Right, gotcha. It wasn't necessarily the block usage,
No.
but still same tip, right? If I was going to teach chair yoga, I'd be right next to John in that class.
Right. Because he's such a good example.
Yeah, or Anna, you know.
It's hard to spend so long focusing things on it. You have to start.
Yeah.
thinking about stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
And it's still about you, but it's also about learning how to teach. You know, it's finding the balance. Mm-hmm.
What did you see?
I'm going to show you.
When you told me?
Uncross roll off, kind of look at Laura of the calves. Yes, I'm
Yes.
going to show it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're gauging it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I can see.
I think having the same clothing.
Yeah. Her chest is gorgeous, which is really nice because she was a cook for a living and she was like this, you know? But she's done a lot of stuff to open her chest. It's really come a long way even just recently. You feel it,
This
right?
is sternum, I have the sternum bumps.
Yeah, that sternum connection is amazing, but it takes a wee while to get it. And again, it's hard to see stuff. Laura's done a lot of yoga. But just see if you can see just what one little cue you might give her. It's hard.
If she lifts her legs slightly this way,
Yeah.
to activate that.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get my.
And I want her to relax her throat just a little bit. So just give your head a little shake. Yeah. And that's just me being picky. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is she's good at injecting her femur. She's nailing that, but she's missing a little bit of the tug of war, right? And the amazing thing is it's really level considering she's got scoliosis. So you're gonna take your kneecaps and lift them into my hands. You feel the difference, right? Yeah. So you're gonna keep lifting your kneecaps into my hands, and my hands are pushing back. So you imagine your kneecaps are hugging. You see how it goes into her throat, right? It's interesting. That's how she holds it. But we'll come back to that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit of length. Nice. And then we're gonna go onto her heels, and she's gonna kick her heels into my hands. Yeah. Look at what just happened to her calves.
Okay,
You
that's
feel
the
it?
heels, okay.
Yeah. So I'm talking about the zigzag legs. And again, I go around the world to try and figure out how to bring energy into your body where I can't really get energy, right? Because I've taught her calf to shins for years. Yeah, and I can still give her that connection, which is here, but I think going to the foundation of this is better. And she gets it better and she's just learning it. So now that it's going to be easy for her in 2 weeks, because she's Laura, I'm going to have to go to New York again and find something she can't do. Right?
When you started this, Laura, before you got the correction, did you feel like your calf was activated?
Yes, but I knew that it wasn't.
Okay,
It
yeah,
wasn't
I'm
right
feeling the
to
same
this,
thing.
this exam, but I was trying to do it with my calf, not my
Yeah.
heels and my hips.
Well, and that's a new connection for her, right? Because we've only been talking about that for a couple months. Because that was something I remember, like someone taught it to me, and I'm like, that's freaking amazing. I'm like, I couldn't do that before. And then I have to practice it for 6 months before I can teach it to make sure it's not going to F me up. Or, you know what I mean, to make sure I own it. Because you don't teach something you don't own. Because if you just taught put your shoulders in your back pockets, right? You didn't try it for 6 months, you wouldn't realize it doesn't actually help you. It makes your neck tense. And don't believe something just because I say it. But you like that, I can see.
Well, because it works.
Well, and what's important for Laura is to keep her muscle mass. She's almost 70, right? We want to keep her muscles strong. All right, so let's do the other side. Her butt's going to disappear. We got to keep it, right? Keep those bones supported. All right, so bent knees. Let's do the other side. So neutral pelvis. You can maybe lengthen your back ribs away, relax your shoulders, maybe lengthen your head away. Keeping that neutral pelvis, bring that left leg up. And then remembering, oh right, what are the precautions? Again, it's due diligence, it's being honest, telling people what could hurt them. So that they're not sitting there going, oh my back, but they don't know that that's not supposed to be that way. Always reminding them, there should be no pain. If you feel this in your back, what do? You bend your knee. So let's all bend our knee and just feel how light that is. Keeping the neutral pelvis and just la la la. And this is basic core. This is how we start. If I had a room full of people that I didn't know, I would start with basic core with one leg, and then I'd do basic core with the other leg lifted. That's later on. I think we learned that in the fall, but you get the gist. And then slowly start to straighten your leg, and notice how it gets harder the more straight the leg becomes. And then you can start to throw in flex the foot, exhale to lower, point the toe, inhale to lift. If it's easy and you want more of a challenge, you're not moving your shoulders, you're not moving your ribs, you're not moving your pelvis, you can stay stable, find your down dog arms, then maybe you can start to straighten out that right leg. And then after a few with that straight right leg, notice, are you coming up faster than you are lowering? Is it jagged? Is it jumping in one spot? Or is it smooth like silk? And then maybe if you want to make it even harder, you can float that right heel.
Michelle, if I can straighten this leg, but then I can't
Lift this leg is high.
6 of this, half a dozen of the other. Some days do this, some days do that.
Okay.
Because this is less about, I mean, you can get the hamstring stretch in a million ways. We already did the hamstring stretch, and you can do intense leg stretches, but if you're only doing one,
Right.
does that make sense?
Yeah.
Just sort of balance it out based on the other things you're doing. So now that we've got all that, we're going to add a heel slide, but just do the heel slide. So the next time that left heel comes down, you may want to bend that right knee if you like, if you're not used to it. Drag that left heel towards the left sit bone along the floor. Drag the left heel away. Drag it to the butt. Drag it away from the butt. And if that's easy peasy, you can float the heel, keeping it as close to the floor as you can, as if you were rolling a pea or a marble, as you straighten and bend that left leg. Keeping the ankle, the knee, and the hip in a straight line on both legs. Then eventually you could straighten the right leg. And after a few, you could float the right heel if you wanted to, but taking your time to find that. I'm going to add a little bit of light. And then let's add the alternate leg lifts to this heel slides. Next time we straighten up that left leg, let's inhale to bring that left leg up. Let's exhale to bring that left leg down. Let's inhale to drag the heel towards the butt. Let's exhale to drag the heel away from the butt. Let's inhale to bring that leg up. Let's exhale to bring that leg down. Inhale to drag the heel towards the butt. Exhale to drag the heel away from you. If you cannot time the movement with the breath, then breathe more. If it's agitating in any way, you don't have to match the movement with the breath. If you want to go slower, because that helps keep the pelvis, breathe more. Notice if the foot rotates out to one side as you do it. Notice if the knee points out to one side or inside as you do it. Lots of little things to look for. And the next time that left leg comes up, hold it up. If it's hard, you're going to bend the right knee. If it's still challenging, you're going to bend the left knee. Find the soles of the feet level. So whether the right knee is bent or whether it's straight, try and level out those feet. Try and lengthen the inner heels. A lot of us are still shortening the heels. Try and make the big toe mound and baby toe mound down so it's level with the heel. And then without anything else moving, let's move that left heel in little circles. I like to bring my hands onto the hips here because it's really easy to move the hips. And it's important to find the right back of the knee lifting to the kneecap. We're not looking for backwards D's, we're looking for circles. And then eventually, if nothing else is moving, that leg can go bigger with the circles. But if your right foot, right knee, hips, ribs, shoulders are moving, do smaller circles. And then let's change direction with the circles. That's kind of important. The knee was bent, just behind circles with the kneecap. And then stopping with the circles, let's draw that left leg nice and tight over the right. Bring that right foot a little more into center, finding neutral pelvis, natural lumbar curve. It's a very common place to shorten the back ribs, so lengthen the back ribs away, lengthen the head away, relax your shoulders, try and find a neutral spine. Get rid of all the wrinkles in your heels. Again, slide your foot away to notice how that softens the stretch. Slide your foot to you to notice how that deepens the stretch. Squeeze your thighs, outer thighs squeezing in, inner thighs pulling apart. Front thigh to back thigh, calf to shin. Physically lift the shins up. And then find crease of the ankle towards the heel, crease of the knee towards the kneecap, crease of the hip flexor towards the butt. Did anyone not find more of a stretch? Dig your heels into imaginary blocks and pull them towards your butt. Pull your hamstrings towards your quads back towards your hamstrings, and pull the hamstrings down towards the curvy bit of your butt. So you can get an IT band stretch even here. You know, like if you really work it and you really find that mind-body connection, you can get it all. And then when you're ready, take it to whatever depth you did on the other side. Maybe it's a foot on a block, maybe it's interlacing your fingers, maybe it's using a strap, but because we're doing the left side, it's left hand on top of right. And here is a great place to pull those femurs into the hip sockets. Create resistance with those hands. Check, 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 check. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know how we get rid of the throat though. Let's try it. Yeah, 2 secs. I mean, so let these guys see it. It's nice to see it on your body because you're a hard body to find. So we take 5 more big belly breaths. And then you're going to come down, uncross, roll off. Yeah, you did. But just don't, yeah, we'll find a little bit more. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Good job. It's nice that we just telepathically communicate it. But the thing is, you know it, right? Because it's when you find something new, we lose something that we found, probably the last thing we found. Yeah. So remember we were saying it was coming into Laura's throat, and it's nice to look at Laura because it's, you know. And she can do it on her own, but I'm just going to show it. So hip flexors away from armpits. So because she's really working on this sternum butt, she's shortening the back ribs a little bit. Yeah. You see how that just relaxed her throat? So we just lengthened her back ribs and just totally got this to relax. Yeah, but then she's still in her sternum butt lift. And so it's fine, 6 of this, half dozen of that. It's like if this pushes that way, you gotta remember that this still pushes back. It's like if I give you a cue, drop your right shoulder and you do this, right? It's just like, and then you use your mind's eye to drop that right shoulder. Does that make sense?
When you say you straighten or you lifted your ribs, what did you do? Did you lift them
It's
on
the
the
same
floor?
thing as this.
It's that.
And then the
So,
head.
So what's the opposite of this? This.
Okay, I see.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
So you can go too much this
Yeah.
way, but you can also go too much that way.
Okay.
Right? And so her throat was getting, it just was getting tense, right? And she was getting that. You can, and I mean, this is really, really finicky, pickety stuff, you know? But it's nice to see finicky, pickety stuff because you have to start somewhere. And you see finicky, you're quite, a lot of us have good body, you know, reading skills. But they're developed, right? The first classes I taught, I couldn't see the way someone's knee was necessarily rotated, and that's okay. You start somewhere, but it's also nice to see where it goes. Okay, so that's pretty much the full series. We can look at the twists in the series. You can obviously throw in other stuff, which we do all the time. We throw in the number 4 twist. We throw in a sleepy cow twist. Which twist would you guys prefer to see? Because we're just going to look at one of them. Sleepy cow? Yeah, sleepy cow's everybody's favorite twist.
I love sleepy.
It's so good.
It's fine.
Yeah, and it's a good one to get this lengthening of the back rib cage. So let's look at it because it's really easy to shorten. Let's look at my body because my body is quite movable. Okay, so there's a couple different ways to get into it. The most common way from here is to like bam and then come here. And when you do that, it's very common to get this happen because it's almost impossible to have a neutral pelvis here. And so we imprint right? So then when we come out of an imprint, automatically on most bodies, this is what happens, right? So now I've lost my rib connection, right? And so then I'm losing my cervical curve, right? And I'm getting more of an anterior tilt. So then I go back to a neutral pelvis, I push into my elbows, I lengthen my back rib cage away, and you see how that gives me a neutral neck, right? So if I shake my head for a no here, I'm looking straight up at the ceiling. See, I'm looking that way, right? So this is versus neutral versus, right? So you've heard me say that, shake your head a little bit. This is making a frown on the back of my skull. If I close my eyes, open my eyes, I'm looking at the wall behind me, right? If I'm like this, I shake my head, it's making kind of like, no, this is the frown, beg your pardon. This is making like a little circle this way. This is a happy face. It's just instead of rolling straight, it's rolling like this on the back of my skull. And then if I find neutral, if I roll back and forth, I close my eyes, open my eyes, I'm looking straight ahead, it's making a straight line on the back of my skull. And we'll go over this, we'll feel it, right? It's just nice to see it so when I'm telling you, you get what I'm talking about. So we're here, some of us can hook the ankle, some of us can't, doesn't really matter. What's the precaution here? What do you think when we come into a twist like this that we have to be concerned about? Knees and back, right? So if it tugs into the knees or it tugs into the back, what do you do?
Blocks.
Yeah, first uncross if it's knees and then support it with blocks. Or bolsters, I prefer bolsters and twists. The less you want to twist, the closer it is to the hip, right? So this is less of a twist, this would be more of a twist. So that's lower body. What about the upper body? What am I running the risk for?
Shoulders looking out. And yeah.
This, and I've seen people teach it, and maybe it doesn't always cause an injury, but I wouldn't want my people doing that for 6 years. Do you know what I mean? It's just not effective. You don't have anything to root into, it's not energetic, and shoulder injuries do happen in twists. So if someone was there, they could hang out here, or I find it most effective if you support them with something and then they kick into it. To keep the knees safe, we try and get rid of the wrinkles in the heels and we keep the feet nice and active, right? So here I've just rolled over, and I'm more mobile than this, but I can even find this connection here. So in order to get my spine straight so I can properly turn my neck, you see how my neck doesn't really turn here? So then I push into my elbows, I lengthen my back ribs. In this case, because it's a twist, I have to lengthen my left ribs to the left, really straighten out my spine, find my head, and then look at the difference, right? It just, once you find that plumb line, it really works better. Some of us are able to go all the way down, right? And then we can find that a little bit more, right? Options for the arms are down here, cactus, or I really like this version. And then the tendency is, you see how it's really easy to shorten on this side, so you've got to really think. It's that introducing the waist on the bottom side like we do when we're doing the butt kicking series, lengthening this hip from this armpit. And then if I really want to twist, how do I twist? Front right rib to the floor, back left rib to, back rib to front rib. See how that just brought my shoulders down, right? And then if I want to twist from the abdomen, I really think about taking my left lower abdomen, pulling it in, and tucking it in underneath my right rib cage, right? And then I got really deep in here. And again, we're not born moving our abdomen, so I think all of us are getting some of it. And I'm starting to see that in everybody. All right, so let's look at that. How are we doing for time? Yeah, we're good. All right, so coming down. Let's do right leg over left. You can hook the ankle if you can hook the ankle, either way. Lengthen the back rib cage away from the pelvis. Push into the foot, move the hips to the left. Sorry, the right leg's on top. I'm doing the opposite because I just did the right. I'll do that side first. And then have your arms out beside you. The slower you go, the better, okay? Because there's generally one part of our spine that doesn't want to twist, and so if you move really slowly by finding all the actions of the legs, all the actions of the joints, arms, shoulders, belly, ribs, everything working, lower your legs as slowly as you can. and then arrive. Both shoulders on the ground. The right shoulder might have less weight, but it's still on the ground. And then some of us have the mobility to push into the left elbow to move the left ribs to the left, which will start to straighten out the spine. See if you can get your crown in line with your tailbone, and then lengthen the left ribs away from the left waist as you lengthen the right hip flexor away from the right armpit. And then just choose whatever legs you like. So start at the base, find your feet, get rid of the wrinkles in your heels. Calf to shin, front thigh to back thigh, inject your hamstrings towards your butt, sit your butt into a chair, hip flexor to butt hugs back, crease the kneecap to cat pushes back to the crease of the ankle towards the heel back. Get rid of the wrinkles in your heels. See if you can find those same connections in your arms. Lengthen the two sides of the torso, and maybe you turn the gaze, maybe you don't.
Could you cue that cool rib thing again? Because now I'm down it. I got confused.
I'm sorry?
There was like a rib, one rib moving.
I'm going to a sec just from the GIF, yeah.
It looked really cool.
That's not nice to do legs. So it's just like in a seated twist. So the front right rib is going to move towards the back right rib, and the back left rib underneath the shoulder blade is going to lift forward, right? Which is going to twist your body. Maybe, maybe not, right? It just depends on your mobility. And then to get the abdomen, you go from the left lower abdomen, you pull it in like it's doing Uddiyana Bandha, but at an angle. You pull it in, and you try and tuck it in underneath the right ribs. There you go. And then you might be able to find front right ribs down, back left ribs up, and then you lengthen with the elbows, you lengthen with the wrists. Big, beautiful breaths. Up and down the spine, nice. Yeah. And finding that three-part yoga breath up and down the spine. That shoulder wants to lift, supporting the bottom leg. And see if you can reintroduce the curve in the bottom waist. We know it's going to stay. Everybody else, bring your neck back to neutral, lower your arms below your shoulders. Nice inhale to come up, uncross, roll off to your side. Let's come and look at one on. So you're going to stay exactly as you are. And it's good. It really is good. She's learned a lot today. Yeah. The one area that I would go to straight off the bat is her upper body, because she's starting, we haven't really covered upper body today, right? So we're not surprised. And this is your stuff. So the big thing for me is the creases, right? So she's getting her ankle crease, her knee crease, lift your knees, sit your butt, nice. And then I'm gonna take her arms lower, like this, yeah. And then I'm gonna think crease to calf, so that she doesn't float her elbows. Her elbows were floating. This is a really common thing, right? And then you feel that difference in your upper back. And she's got this tightness in her upper back where it keeps popping her rib. And so this is good info for her. And then she's gonna push her fingertips into my hand and bring the palm down to the floor like you're sucking up. Yeah, like this. Yeah. Now, but less tension, less wrinkles. Nice. Now push your elbow down. So the elbow crease is now almost level, right? See what that just did to her arm to chest, and leave the other arm. You see the difference here? You see how her armpit is now hugging her shoulder and her shoulder's hugging her armpit? So she's getting a nice lengthening here. You feel the difference, hey?
Yeah.
And then gently, right, extension, no tension, she's gonna think about taking her humerus bone, her upper arm bone, so she's gonna reach her elbow to me just a little bit, and then keep pushing into my fingers. Nice, and then you're gonna bring your collarbone to me. Yeah, you're just gonna lift her sternum bug, if you can. So yeah, there you go, nice. You feel that difference, and you see how that rotated her already? And then we're gonna find her other arm. Nice, you're gonna bring it back into here. So I don't ever like arms over shoulders. And then you're gonna push your fingertips into my hand, nice. And then wrist crease to the floor, elbow crease to the floor. Nice. Lift up just a little bit, and let's try and get rid of the tension there. Yeah. And it's really hard to do without tension when you're not used to doing it. So I think of a tray of drinks on both sets of hands, and she's lifting it up, and she's creating this suction cup of a hand. Nice, and then she thinks armpits lifting up into the shoulders melting down. See what just happened to your chest. Yeah. Nice, we're gonna keep that. And then I'm gonna support her here, because what's important here is her base. I want her to keep her pelvis. And then I'm gonna take this rib, and I'm gonna lift it up, and I'm gonna lengthen it that way really gently. I'm gonna take this shoulder, and I'm gonna lengthen it up. Is that okay? And we're gonna relax this. And then is it okay that I touch your ribs? Okay. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to pull our ribs to one another. Nice. And then which rib is moving which way?
Towards the front.
This rib is going to move towards my hand here. So push into my hand. Yeah. Look at what that just did. And her head just wants to go. It's like, oh, this is really freeing. And then I want you, and it's energetic, and listen careful. I want this back rib to lift up into this hand. And I could do this with a block. Right, if I didn't know her, but this is intimate for someone you don't know. Yeah, nice, look at that difference. And then I'm still gonna support her, and I want you to go see where my ankle is, your lower abdomen. I want you to pull it in like you're sucking in your belly for a photo, and I want you to move all that underneath this rib. Nice, look at that. And then I want you to drop this rib down again, and then I want you to lift this back rib up. Gorgeous, look at that. And then we're gonna go neutral neck, and then you're gonna turn your gaze. Yeah, so nice. And what a difference, hey? And then I'm gonna let it go. Move forward. And I could have done that verbally, right? Totally internally, but sometimes the hands help.
It also helps other people.
Yeah.
To
You
see it.
can't really see the internal,
Yeah.
you can sure see what you've done.
Yeah.
There's some major physical
Change. Yeah. Well, she can breathe into her upper chest now. And she can breathe into her upper back, which is really nice. So now she found that 3-part of your breath. She can really massage out where she's super tight in her upper back. Not super tight, but you know.
When would you support, like if she wasn't feeling anything here, you just leave her hanging? Would
Yeah.
you have her in support if she's?
So good question. Okay. So if I felt like this was at risk, right? So she's super tight in the hips and the back. She has back pain, low back pain, then I would just support her if she wasn't using her legs and her feet, right? So her legs and her feet are active, so I know that they're active enough to support her joints. If she wasn't maintaining, if she was getting wrinkles, if she wasn't leveling her toenails, if I saw that her quads weren't working, she was loosey-goosey, then I'd give her something to feel. Does that make sense? To push into. If we were doing a motion and I didn't want her legs moving, I would put support there. Because if they're on the floor, you can root into the floor and you can find it, like pushing into a wall. But if my arm's floating, it's harder to find something to push into. If your legs are floating, it's harder to find something to push into. So I hope I answered that. Yeah.
Can I also ask you, I haven't done this variation with my hands lifted. What is that changing in her body?
You're not doing this because
Okay.
you're
Like we're sitting.
floating. Yeah. Yeah. And that's not everybody. You know what I mean? Some people can do it flat on the ground, but like bendy people that can hyperextend really easily. It's a learning tool, and not that I'm going to make her do that forever. I'm eventually going to make her find her elbows here and her armpits here, or here, or here, or here. But it's a good practice for her, because what a difference that made in your upper back. And just hanging out, breathing into it, look at how much that's changed on both her legs and her upper body. Yeah. It's almost a full twist now. And now she knows what to do. So then she's going to go home, and the best way to memorize something, especially if it was like an aha thing, is right after class you make a note of it. You write everything down that you can remember. And then you practice the stuff as soon as you can, and if you don't remember something about it, then you remember to ask me by writing a note. Honestly, God, if you don't write it down, you won't remember it. That is, you can remember 3 things, but not more than 3 things, I think, without writing it down. Unless you're a genius. And we're all geniuses. All right, so let's do the other side. And so you would lower your arms, find a neutral neck, and then use your arms and your legs to bring it up. Nice. All right, so let's do the other side. I'll talk you through it. So spine's nice and straight. And if you can learn like one thing in class, that's amazing. If you can learn 3 things in a workshop, that's amazing, right? At the end of the year, you have so many things. But if we try and learn all the things, we don't remember anything, is my experience. All right, so knees together, feet together, neutral pelvis, lengthen the back rib cage, lengthen the skull, left leg comes nice and tight over right, maybe you can hook the ankle, heel in line with tailbone, pick up your hips, move your hips to the left, and that's super counterintuitive. So I often say, this is a dyslexic pose, listen up, because it will save you a lot of time. Then find your arms, really root into your arms, and slow as you can. Really think hip flexor to butt, sit my butt into a chair so you've got less work to do when you arrive. And slow as you can, lower the legs, try not to lose the ribs. Have you lost your feet, your calves, your quads, your knees? Sit your butt into a chair, find your pelvis. Maybe you've got the mobility to push into your right elbow to move your right ribs to the right and lengthen your right ribs away from your pelvis to try and find a straighter spine, shoulder a little closer to the floor. Maybe you can find a nice neutral neck. And then take your arms to what's appropriate for you. Find your fingers, find your palms. So fingertips like a down dog are pushing into a floor. Circumference of the palm is pushing into the floor, but like a suction cup, lift the middle of your palm up. So that means to the floor. Crease of the wrist is moving towards the floor, but crease of the elbow is moving towards the floor, so that often, for a lot of us, causes the forearms to lift. For some it's a little, for some it's a lot. Glance and see if your wrist crease and your elbow crease can be level with the floor. Lift the armpits up into the shoulders. And so it's best to start the twist at the base, even though I started the ribs, went down to the base and back up to the ribs because it's easier to move the ribs than our organs. So we'll do that again, okay? So we're gonna go to the back right shoulder and we're gonna lift it away from the floor towards the front right rib as the left rib cage moves down towards the floor. Lift our sternum, broaden our collarbones. And then let's go to the right lower abdomen. We're going to pull it in like we're pulling our belly in for a photo. Slightly down towards the pelvis. Find that left hip flexor. And then root away from the pelvis and draw that lower abdomen up as if you wanted to tuck it in underneath that left rib. And then think about that front left rib moving down towards the floor. Back right rib lifting up away from the floor. Reach with the elbows, lift the armpits, but relax your shoulders and turn your gaze towards the left thumb. If it's comfy, if it's not comfy, keep your gaze up towards the sky. Big, beautiful breaths. We'll give it to you on this side just because we don't want you walking around in circles. Again, they'll do a twist with you. There you go. Nice. So we're just going to go like this. Nice. And then this front leg is going to come down. Your back rib is going to lift up. Nice. Sternum bug. Yeah, you feel that? Nice. And you can turn your gaze if it's comfy. Keep sitting your butt into a chair. Nice. See if you can find your feet, Jim. There you go. Just a little bit of push. Yeah. So you've got really nice length. Bend your ribs just a little bit. So now I want you to think about the armpits lifting into the shoulders, but I want you to hug your shoulders back onto those armpits. There you go. So push back onto the blocks with your shoulders. Yeah. You feel that?
Yeah.
This is what you need to find in your Urdhva.
Oh, okay.
Now find your elbow creases moving to the elbow caps. And the elbow caps moving back into the creases. There you go. Now armpits to shoulders, shoulders to armpits. And then move the skin of the armpits towards your ears. There you go. And then lift up. Yeah. There you go. So it's like this with the shoulder. Shoulder pushes this way, armpit lifts this way. So when you're in your down dog, you're nailing it. But when you're in back bend,
Yeah.
you're having a hard time lifting the shoulder up. It's just not new to you, so find it here where it's easier. And then you're going to find it in your headstand. Right?
Okay. Thank you.
So take just a couple more breaths, bring your neck back to neutral, unwind, and we'll come and look at Nicole, which will be nice for Renault because it's really similar. Use your arms, leg muscles to bring it up, unwind, uncross, roll off, stay exactly where you are. Yeah. So you can hold it like this. And I'll just go because we're running out of time. So the big thing with her that I noticed that I want her to be aware of is it's very easy for her to twist one way but not the other way, right? And so, especially with the neck, she's always twisting to the right. I can tell just by, because it's very hard for her to twist the left. So I wouldn't let her twist her neck in these poses until she has more stability, which I often say, right? So no turning your neck in the twist. And if you do turn your neck in the twist, in the seated twist, it's the last thing that goes, right? So she's good, she's got her elbows on the floor, which is nice, but this is super lifted, and because she's got more mobility than stability, I'd be mindful of that. So maybe you move the neck, you see how that shoulder came down, and it's just safer. And we don't need for you to move your neck more, your neck is loose, right? We need your neck to be stronger, not more flexible. So I'm just gonna be her pelvis, right? And then she's gonna find your ribs, nice, and then I'm gonna come under, I'm gonna take this bottom rib, we're just gonna gently move it to a straight position. There we go. So now here, if you looked, pretty much her tailbone's now in line with her crown.
Was that the thing where you asked us to shift
Down
our
on the
ribs?
floor.
I shifted it the other direction.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not bad. It wasn't bad. It was
Left
just
and right.
better. Yeah. There we go.
She lost that, she's got more connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally more
As
connection.
soon as I moved it.
And then you see the difference in the right and left shoulder on her, right? So we're gonna just say elbow crease down, hand up. Relax your hands, find the tips of the fingers and push the tips of the fingers into me. Now lift your forearm up. Get your elbow down, nice. There you go.
Okay.
And just see how that came down.
Yeah.
So just a little more pushing. There we go. And then let's see if we can find that one. Nice. Now slide the elbows away from your torso just a little bit. Yeah, there you go. You feel how that just creates space? So the mobility jams. So a lot of people, like Linda for example, extension tension, right? Couldn't move her neck. She's the opposite. Arm bones too far into her shoulder socket. Still, she can move her neck really freely, but it's like, right?
Just weird. Thank you.
Nice. And that's enough. I could give her a little bit of cueing. This rib can come down to my fingers here. And then the back ribs can come up to my fingers here. Yeah. And this comes down. And then she could go to her lower right abdomen, pull it in, and slide it underneath her left rib. So go to that lower right abdomen, you pull it in like you're sucking your gut in, and you have to pee, so it's going to be hard and tuck it under the rib.
Yeah.
But this is better pose for you because it's more stable, it's spine straight, we've lengthened to this side that tends to shorten.
So I forgot about turning my neck, and because it's much easier on my other side. If I do that, should you just not do it on the other
You
side?
shouldn't be turning your neck in
Okay.
this spine poses
Okay,
at all. I wouldn't say shouldn't, but I would do it not 90% of the time. Yeah, you need to find this as opposed to,
But is it better to like just have it asymmetrical? I forget.
is it better, just don't turn your neck on either side. If you can't do something on one side, you don't do it on the other side.
Okay, yeah,
Did I answer that?
sort of.
Yeah.
I just forgot on the other side, so that's why I did it.
Yeah, it's your job to remember.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Adding it to the list.
All right, cool. Take some more breaths. All right, so what are we doing for time? We're good. All right, so we're gonna look at simple back bends. But first, let's look at easy seated positions. So, I'm gonna turn on some lights. How does that feel, Nicole?
Oh,
Yeah, it's
Like-
so good on your body.
I could stay there forever.
Yeah. So that's a great warm-up for sitting cross-legged, right? So the rules with sitting cross-legged, if we're crossing at the shins, are the knees cannot be higher than the hip flexors, which is why the majority of humans can't teach a yoga class without blocks if you're going to teach seated positions, because most people can't sit on the floor without this happening. And it's just too high risk. You can probably get away with it for a while, but you're on the backs of your sit bones, you're imprinting your low back, you're going to hand your, like, what's the point of doing it, right? So we add as much height as we need to, so that our knees are not higher than our hips. One of the tricks for that is, again, this is that spacing of the knee and ankle that we looked at for you. If my knees are wide and my ankles are narrow, even in this body where my hips are open, it catches and I can't fully really open up my hips, right? My knees stay high. Whereas I walk my feet, bring my knees in a little bit, it allows something to release in here where my knees come down a little bit more. And then we want to look at our feet. When we're new to sitting, active feet is really, really important. So we want to get rid of the wrinkles in our heels, and we want to try and keep these super active feet, right? So the tendency is to lose the feet, right? And then we get these wrinkles, and then in a body that, isn't used to it as much, then the outer knee is going to start to get cranky. So as much as you can, right? Hands on the thighs, nice inhale to lift the chest, shoulders back, sit up nice and tall. Find the backs, middle, front of the sit bones. Middle, back, middle, front, middle, back, middle, front, middle, back, middle, front. And then just see if you can find the center of the sit bones. Root the hip flexors towards the butt and lift the armpits up into the shoulders so that the shoulders relax back down over those armpits. Shoulder heads back, armpits forward. So say I only cue, put your shoulders in your back pocket. Someone mobile like me, right? One cue, right? So if you don't do the other cues, it's tricky, right? So finding that length, finding that space, make sure you can shake your head for no, but again, if you're like that, it's really hard for me to shake my head for no, I'd be able to figure it out, right? All right, and from here, we're gonna hold on to an imaginary block. Hands or shoulders distance apart. Our thumb wrist and our pinky wrist are stacked, and we're gonna do some shoulder push-ups here. And then take those arms away from you, go for 10 out of 10. Fill that space between your angel wings, make it a bit of a heel, and notice how it's gross. Shake your head for no. So some of us drive our cars like this, we do our taxes like this, we feed our babies like this, we do everything like this, all right? And then pull those arms all the way back in. Feel how that feels, and see how it feels gently to move your neck. Again, not good. Right, so then we find extension, no tension. So we're pulling the humerus bone out of the body. We've not got that big gap between our angel wings. There's no big valley there, but we can easily shake our head for no. And that's the just right Goldilocks, right? And then find the center of the sit bones, get your shoulders right over those hips. Thumb, wrist, pinky, wrists are stacked. Exhale to bring your arms down. Inhale to bring your arms straight up. You've got the ribs, shoulders, anything changing. Staying right on the center of those sit bones. Tendency is the pinky wrist comes out, thumb wrist goes in. See if you can find it. Straight arms are more important than arms outside the ears. Nice. Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Well, this was what, that was what I was looking at, you
That's
fixed them.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if it was the arm, the body was twisting or the arms, I didn't catch it until the end. Nice. And then nice and slow, we're gonna try and keep the pinky wrist as high as the thumb wrist, and then nice and slow, we're gonna bring those arms out. Just out to the side. Find a little mini, can't see it, sure feel it, mini micro bend in your elbows. Then once you're arriving at the T, turn and look. Are my pinky wrist and my thumb wrist level? Are my elbow creases level? Tiny little micro bend, bring your gaze back to center. Armpits lift up into the shoulders, shoulders relax back down onto those armpits. Can you shake your head for now? Lift the sternum bug up, but don't shorten the back body, right? So it's not like you want to find this and get rid of this. It's finding that perfect spot, just right. Excuse me. Try to keep the pinky wrist up, bring those hands around, keep extension, no tension, hands shoulders distance apart. So outer thumb wrist is as wide as your shoulder. Keep that mini micro bend in the elbows. Can you shake your head for no? Just gonna do one round of the arm lines each way with the different palms. Then nice and slow, we're gonna bring it out. Little mini bend, ears over shoulders, pinky wrist, thumb wrist, level with the sky. Lift your sternum, squeeze your fingers. Now rotate your hands so the palms face me, wrists are stacked, thumb wrist over pinky wrist, find a mini micro bend. So mini micro bend, think about the hands pushing forward and the elbows pushing back. So just like in that twist. Yeah, there you go. And then think about pulling the arms just right out of the shoulder sockets. Sternum bug lifts, so simple back bends. This is Superman, and this is airplane. And then airplane turns into Superman, trying to keep the pinky wrist and the thumb wrist level. Arms pushing back, arms pushing forward. So this is Superman. Breathing. Can you shake your head for no? We want extension, but no tension.
This is a back bend.
This is the arms for a simple back bend.
It's like I'm doing this.
And then nice and slow, bring those arms down. It's really easy to start to lean back. Are your shoulders over your hips? Are you on the backs of your sit bones? So it's real easy to do that. And then bring those arms down, palms facing up, shoulders back, sit up nice and tall. Few breaths here. And then draw your knees together, uncross those legs, straighten out those legs, find a little bend in your knees, just a little bit of pointing and flexing here. So bend in those knees to keep the backs of the knees nice and safe. Maybe some circles, circles the other way. And to the opposite crossing, so get rid of the wrinkles in your heels, cross the left shin over the right shin, walk the feet nice and wide so that the knees are just a little wider than your thighs, hands on the thighs, nice and inhale to lift your chest, shoulders back, find that nice seated position, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. Lift the armpits up, root the hip flexors down, find all those nice connections. If you're finding the sternum bug, you've got to really find the front ribs moving to the back ribs rooting back and lifting up. Let's bring those hands out in front. Find your pinky wrist and thumb wrist level with the floor. Let's spread our fingers. Let's find the fingertips rooting down and the suction cup of the palm lifting up. No wrinkles. Do a couple shoulder push-ups here. And then find extension, no tension. You can easily shake your head for no. It's an external rotation of the upper arm, it's an internal rotation of the lower arm, as if you were pushing very firmly into the base of the thumb and the index. If you need to go wider with your hands, do. And then without anything else changing, we're going to slowly, using our peripheral vision, bring those arms up. Think mini micro bend in the elbows. So this is the arms for Superman. Lifting the arms up, keeping the rotation. Armpit is going to hug into shoulder, shoulder's going to hug back into the armpit. Armpit is moving towards the ears. It's like the armpit is going into the shoulder and the shoulder is pushing back into the armpit, and then the back of the armpit is going to pull through towards the front of the armpit. Find the wrist crease and root it back. That is a sick connection for back bends because this all helps you to get into your upper back. And then think about rooting the back of the skull back and the forehead forward. Hip flexors root, lengthen the crown and the ears away from the pelvis. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Keep all that gorgeous length. So this versus, right, lengthen. Root down and lengthen up, and then try and keep the wrists as slow as we can. Bring those arms out. Slow, 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 slow. Keep the same wrist, the same elbow, the same arm. Think mini micro bend. Wrists are going to root back, elbows root, armpits lift, find your sternum bug, and without going into a back bend in your ribs, pull those legs off the sternum bug. So the ribs that are attached to your sternum, draw them away, lengthen them all the way to that inner elbow. And it's like your arm bones are in a vice in all directions. The arms are trying to move in all directions. Move the skin of the armpits forward and up. Shoulders stay relaxed. And you shake your head really easily for no. Same arms that twist, right? Super active arms. And then nice and slow, we're going to rotate it so the fingers point down. We're going to see if we can start to rotate it so the fingers point back. And we're going to bring those arms in nice and close, like so. Fingertips rooting back into an imaginary wall, wrists rooting forward into an imaginary wall, shoulder heads to the back wall, armpits forward. Keep lengthening, lengthening, lengthening. Ears over shoulders, crown and ears lengthening away from the pelvis. Big, beautiful breaths. And then from here, see if you can interlace your fingers behind your back without any of that changing. You can straighten your arms without the palms touching, or you can bring those palms to touch if it's easy for you to straighten the arms. And think about extension, no tension. Pull the arms away from the shoulders, but the armpits pull forward. Then maybe the arms can lift off the back a little bit without the front body changing. Can you shake your head for no? Is there tension? Floating ribs coming to one another, back rib cage rooting back and lengthening. Release just a little bit, swap your interlacing, reconnect, see if you can find it again. It's an external rotation of the upper arm, it's an internal rotation of the lower arm. The upper arm bones are karate chopping in, the elbows are pulling apart and reaching from crease to cap. So you can feel how you're using your core, zipping your belly to keep that pelvis. And release those arms, let the palms face up, close your eyes. Feel all that length and space you've created. Big, beautiful breaths. Then hands come to the outer knees, draw the knees together, uncross, open up the backs of the knees. You can be on your fingertips, and just a little bit of flexing point. And then maybe some circles. So before we do the simple back bends, we have to think, can they do this? Right? Can they do this? Because this is easier than this or this. Does that make sense? So say you're coming down onto your belly. First of all, coming down onto our belly, if you have any shoulder stuff, we're not going to do this, and we'll do more chaturanga stuff later in life. But to come down, we're going to think elbows if we have any neck or shoulder back stuff, and we're going to come down like that. When we come out of it, we're going to come out like that, really lifting the belly. We want to avoid the back bend, and we want to avoid the valleys, right? So especially valley people. Knees on the floor, the valleys aren't a big deal, but if you lift the knees, obviously it's a big deal. So there's different variations, and we'll look at all of them. So obviously this is going to be harder than this, right? But it's the same actions. This is slightly more effective in my mind for certain things. And most people can do this or this. The elbows are bent, this is obviously going to be easier, right? So when I teach the simple back bends, I like to find what I call spider hands, where the fingers are down and the palms are lifted, because if you can get them to have active fingers as a base, then you're going to access their upper back, which is what we're looking for here. I teach upward dog feet, baby toes down, right? So then if the baby toes aren't down, what's happening to the knee? It's not neutral. And then if I'm pushing my foot into the floor in a non-neutral position, it's putting a lot of weight on that inner knee, which if I had a groin thing or whatever, then I could hurt myself. Alright, so, and you can see it on my body just because I've done it a lot. So my favorite are these guys. Well, not my favorite, but the ones I use most often because they're very effective. Find my feet, right? So inner heel to outer heel, right? Vice on the heels, outer heel to inner heel. What are my calves doing? Going to the floor. The crease of my heel is lifting to the heel is hugging back on the crease, right? Front thigh, back thigh. I inject my hamstrings. Flesh of butt is moving away from the low back. I'm going to zip my belly. You see the difference? Right? As opposed to, right? What do you think is better when I go back? Right? Okay. So then I think ribs lifting, ribs lengthening, armpits lifting, find my fingers, find my elbows, find my shoulders, and then I always start with one leg at a time. I'm keeping a neutral pelvis, one leg, one arm at a time, forehead down. Second set, we do head up, arm up, leg up. I try to keep the shape of my foot. Very few people can do that. They do this, they do that, they go into their habits, but I really think about keeping the shape of that foot. Because if you can do it here, you can do it in a handstand, you can do it on your head, you can do it, it's your foot. And then we're going to go from Superman, we'll go do some of this, we'll do some floating with both legs, and we'll just play with it, but those are the primary connections. Alright, so when you're ready, let's come down. So for fun, let's pretend we have a shoulder injury, let's come down onto our elbows, let's lift our bellies, let's fill the space between the shoulder blades as we come down, and then let's go up with that same connection. Coming up and down just 2 times, using our elbows, keeping the stability in the shoulders, and then try coming down a couple times with our hands on the floor, trying to keep that same stability. And you'll just notice, obviously one is harder on the shoulders and the back, obviously one is easier. So again, just creating that memory, and then coming down onto your belly. Feet at hips distance apart. Tops of the feet down, push into your feet and find your upward dog feet. So try and get the toes down. Think inner heels dropping the block, outer heels squeezing the block. Vice on the heels, vice on the thighs. Calves are going to the floor, calves are lengthening towards the heels, front thigh to back thigh, lift your thighs up away from the floor. Flesh of butt away from low back, middle of the butt to the floor, zip your belly. Does anyone not notice a difference? Good. Straighten your arms out in front of you and see if you can find those same arm lines that we had. Again, you can be wider if you need to, but one day hands are shoulders distance apart. Fingertips are down, palms are lifted, inner wrist to outer wrist. So fingertips are on the floor, just palms are lifted. Go a tiny bit wider with your hands so your outer wrists are in line with your outer shoulders. Walk those fingers away from you. If you know you're somebody that needs to find more extension, draw the arm bones back in. If you know you're somebody that needs to find less extension, right? Know your body, know how your neck and your shoulders feel. So now we're keeping the legs, we're keeping the zip of the belly, we're going to keep a neutral pelvis, then floating ribs come to one another without anything else moving. Lift your ribs away from the floor. And then take your back rib cage and lengthen it away from the low back. And then maybe you found a little bit more space to move the shoulders and the head. Think about the armpits lifting up into the shoulders, shoulders hugging back. Think about the skin of the armpits moving towards the ears. Think about the crease, sorry Laura, think about the crease of the elbow moving towards the elbow cap. Think about the crease of the wrist moving towards the curve of the wrist. Think about sucking up into the palm as the circumference of the palms roots down. Keep all those connections. Let's lift right arm and left leg. Forehead down on the first round. Yeah. Just lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Try and keep the shape of the hand. Try and keep the shape of the foot. A lot of us, that back foot wants to point out, so you have to think about internally rotating your thigh to keep it neutral. Try and keep both arms straight. Exhale to lower those limbs down. Inhale to lift, left hand, right leg up. So opposite limbs. Keep both hips on the floor. Keep breathing. Try and keep the shape and function of the arms, the legs, the butt, the pelvis. Those limbs come down, find your fingers, find your palms, find your toes, find all your joints. Start with your toes, go all the way up. Check, 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 check. Second round, the head will lift, but you're going to find a neutral neck. See if you can lift the arm bones off the floor, but have the fingertips down as we lift the right hand, left leg, and the forehead floats up off the floor. Lift that left thigh up and push that right foot down. Left hand up, or right hand, yeah, other hand. And then swap your limbs. Everybody's doing something different. Opposite legs and arms. Opposite limbs floating up. For most of us, it's right leg, left hand. Lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Try and keep the arms straight. Keep zipping your belly, moving the flesh of the butt away from the low back. The limbs, the fingers and toes that are touching down, root to come up a little higher. And then release down. So toes are going to point in, heels are going to point out. We're going to stack the right hand on top of the left hand, but we're not going to allow those bellies to come into our shoulders or the tension to come into our shoulders. So it's extension, no tension. You can either have your forehead on your hands, or if you can really relax your shoulders and it's comfortable on your neck, you could have your chin on your hands for more of a neck stretch. With beginners, I only give them one option, which is forehead down, gaze down.
Showing your elbows forward with your wrists.
Yeah. So the forearms are to 90. They're to 90, they're level at the top of the mat. Excuse me. Finding those nice three-part yoga breaths up and down the spine. Let's go 5 more breaths here. So this is a great place to find the legs, because I think that's a good thing in this room to find. So a nice trick for that is to put a block between your thighs and a block between your heels. So for most people, it's medium width between the feet and skinniest width. For me, that's a little bit too narrow on the feet, so I'm gonna do widest width between the heels. And you may find that that's better for you. It's a little nicer with the wider for me, but see what feels right for you. So you're gonna put it ideally between your heels. So it's gotta be kind of like a funny angle, and then you push the tops of the feet down and then lift those ankles up so the block's between your heels. And then we're gonna bring our forehead down. We're gonna press into those feet. We're gonna think baby toes pushing down, big toes pushing down. Heels. Lifting those ankles if you can. So point your feet. I'm gonna come around and help everybody. It's a tricky one to get. There you go.
Oh, I
Push down.
Okay.
There you go. Nice. So feet down. Find your upward dog foot. Find the baby toe edge of the foot on the floor. Squeeze that. Let's go wider. There we go. Nice. Now lift your thighs off the floor, but keep your feet down. Hold this. If you can, June, point your feet, get the tops of the feet down. Can you point your toes? There you go.
And our arms are where?
Arms straight like Superman. Push into your fingers, push into your palms. I'll grab it for you. So come down, tops of the feet down. Squeeze that with your heels. Nice. So baby toes push down, big toes push down, arms straight, find your fingertips. Walk your spider fingers away from you, but keep your shoulders relaxed. Armpits lift up into the shoulders, try and straighten out your arms. Lengthen your inner heels dropping the block, outer heels squeezing the block. Calves to the floor, thighs away from the floor. Move the flesh of the butt away from the low back, move the middle of the butt to the floor. Some of us are not lifting our thighs. Lift your thighs. Then zip your belly. Does anyone not feel their low back lengthen when they do all that? Then think floating ribs come to one another. Lift the floating ribs up off the floor. Imagine the back ribs were lifting up into an imaginary floor, and then lengthen the back ribs away from the pelvis. Pick up your head and move it to this step. And that's the one strike down your mat is a goodie. Find the creases moving to the calves and the arms. Find your fingers, find your palms. And then when you're ready, just think about lifting the ribs to come up like Superman. So feet stay down, just lift your ribs, which will lift your shoulders, which will lift your head. Arms come up too. Float up, float up, float up, float up. Now really think, floating ribs come to one another, floating ribs lift up. Right. So let's get you straight here. That is straight. Yeah, there you go. Float, 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 float. Push down into those feet to come up higher. Think shopping bags on your shoulders and your arms and lift, 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 lift. And then see if you can go from Superman to airplane, just like when we did the arm lines. Bring those arms out like a T. Ideally the arms are straight, but if you need to bend the elbows, bend the elbows. Keep moving the flesh of the butt away from the low back. Think of the zigzags. Imagine those twisty arms. Head lifts on this one. Got a big heavy weight on the back of the skull. You're gonna lift it up, but no wrinkles in the neck. Lift, 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 lift. Airplane. Shoulder heads lift up away from the floor. And then see if you can rotate your hands so your palms face up, and see if you can bring your arms into the body. Neutral neck. Rest whenever you need to rest. So arms are going to come in nice and close. Noticing when wrinkles are creeping in, tension's creasing in. Lift the hands up. Try and bring those arms in nice and close. And then place the backs of the hands on the floor, root into the backs of the hands, and try and come up a little bit higher, pushing those arms in, push those arms in. Move your mid-back through to your sternum, broaden your collarbones, lift your sternum back. Keep on breathing. Now float your feet. Lift those blocks, float your feet. Lift those shoulder heads. Locust. You want your feet as high as your head. And then nice and slow, coming down. Sweeping those hands forward. We're going to do a different rotation of the legs. So take your feet as wide as your mat, toes pointing out, heels pointing in. Find extension, no tension. Find a straight spine, forehead or chin resting on the hands. Shoulders are relaxed. If it feels like too much on your knees, then just point your feet straight back or back in towards one another like we started. Just closing your eyes and finding that nice 3-part yoga breath up and down the spine. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then when you're ready, you're going to point your feet back to neutral position. You're going to tuck your toes, either transitioning on your elbows or your hands. You're going to push yourself up, and you're going to look at what comes next. So locust, all right, these are all simple back bends, right, or basic back bends, you can call them. They're called locust. What's an asana? I can't remember. Sanskrit's not my favorite thing, or not my strongest point. Okay, so coming down, for this guy where we lift the legs, forehead is down, and my chin is tucked so that my nose is not pressing down. Options are hands beside you, but we're lifting the shoulder heads up for the most part to start with, right? Some people have the ability to roll to one side and bring the arm underneath the body, palm facing down, and then roll to the other side to bring the arm underneath the body, palm facing down, right? People that do regular headstands can be chin down, but for most people it's forehead down, right? When we find those same legs, we do one leg lifting, other leg lifting, and then we can do both legs lifting to come out. We roll, we look off to the side. Amazing for arthritis, amazing for joint issues, right? We get a lot of heat, a lot of tingles. If it's painful, we don't want them to bring their arms underneath the body. We just have the palms down like I demonstrated. On the odd person who's a real turtlenecker, you know those guys that have to have the green foamy underneath their head, it's like squishing their nose and it's just not comfortable. If you're gonna do a quick bang it out, it's not such a big deal, but you can just give them some height and then they're not gonna have such a problem, right? So you just put a little bit of height here, you know, and then they can do the same pose, right? You could even have it under their chest. Just bringing their chest up so that they're not squishing their nose. So this allows them to stick with their neck. Does that make sense how I'm explaining that?
So it's kind of
It's
aggressive.
very rare.
You want the hips, hip bones, and the breastbone on
Level, yeah, as much as you can. And again, if you're just banging it out really quick, it's not really gonna hurt them. It's kind of uncomfortable, you know what I mean?
the
But you're not allowed to look left and you're not allowed to look right, especially when we're doing the double leg lift. So I always give that piece of information because you can hurt your neck, and then I'm kind of really strict on it With the single leg lifts, I repeat it because it's when you do the double leg lift that it really matters, right? And it's like eventually you're like this and you're those same action of the hands where you're pushing into the fingers and the palms, bending the elbows. And in this one, eventually it's like the shoulder heads actually push down, but they're not going into this. When it becomes a back bend, the shoulder heads push down. That's when your feet come up. But we're not there. So we don't have to worry about that. Now you can just think about the connection of lifting the shoulder heads up, and one day when this all opens, they touch the ground and then you come up from there. And we can look at that a little bit in some of our bodies in the second term. All right, so let's look at that one. So when you're ready, you're gonna come down. Again, we can transfer over the elbows or the hands. We're gonna come down so the forehead is down. The arms can start beside us, palms facing down, pushing into the fingers and the palms, shoulder heads down. Most bodies can do that. Some people might have to have their hands a little bit wider or palms out if the rotation's not there. Some of us can roll to the left and bring that right arm underneath the body, palm facing down, and then bring the weight onto that right body to bring the left arm under the body, palm facing down. Let's everybody do the version where the forehead is down to start with. And then let's find our feet. Let's go together as much as we can, right? Because our bodies are different. And then let's find our upward dog feet and let's lift our thighs. So toes down, upward dog feet, and then lift those thighs. Think shoulder heads away from the floor, tuck your chin a little bit so your nose is not being compressed, and lift those shoulder heads. Move the flesh of the butt away from the low back. So on this one, the forehead stays down. I'm going to lift that right leg straight up and pull it back without the hip bone lifting. So I want your forehead down. You're going to have to take your glasses off. I think this is cool. Yeah. You're not allowed to look left, you're not allowed to look right. And I've seen people with gnarly hands with arthritis straighten out their fingers doing this 90 days in a row. And then nice and slow, let's bring that leg down. Push into the fingers, push into the palms, other leg lifts. Flesh of the butt moving away from low back. Don't sickle the foot. Yeah. Try and keep the same shape of the foot. Bra line pulls towards sternum, sternum bud lifts and lengthens. That foot comes down. Maybe you can bring the fingers a little closer to one another. Maybe you can walk the fingers towards the knees. Zip those legs up. Try not to bend your knees. Don't let your feet or your thighs come apart if your body allows that. And then nice and slow, just think about pushing your arms down like crazy. Root your forehead a little bit and lift your thighs. Try and keep those feet together. Keep zipping your belly and moving the flesh of the butt away from the low back. Pull your bra line through to your sternum. You're going to hold this as long as you can comfortably, and then you're going to lower your legs. You're going to roll one arm out, you're going to roll the other arm out, and you're going to turn to look off to the right. If that's too much for your neck, you can go back into that previous crocodile pose where we had our hands stacked and our forehead resting on our hands. Toes pointing in, heels pointing out. Big, beautiful breaths. Big, beautiful breaths up and down the spine. If you're still up, coming down nice and slow. Flipping your palms, turning your gaze. Waves of breath up and down the spine. Let those heels fall out, let them relax. Let's turn and look the other way with our gaze. Big, big breaths. Again, listening to your neck. If you've got neck up, just stack your palms and place your forehead on your hands. kitchen, just a little bit lower length in the neck. Or neutral, there you go. And then when you're ready, forehead comes back down, find your feet, push into the tops of the feet. See if you can interlace your fingers behind the back and see if you can straighten out your arms. If you cannot straighten out your arms, just place the backs of the hands on the floor beside you with the palms facing up, just like in our rest position. So it's either backs of the hands on the floor, palms facing up, or you're going to interlace your fingers behind your back and straighten out your arms. Some of us can bring the palms together. We're not lifting the arms off the floor. We're going to push into our feet, we're going to lift our ankles, we're going to root back with our heels. Calves to the floor, calves slide towards the heels. Vice on the heels, vice on the thighs. Thighs are lifting away from the floor, back to the knees move to the kneecaps, kneecaps lifted to the backs to the knees. Flesh of the butt is going to move away from the low back, you're going to zip your belly. Floating ribs come to one another and lift up. Back rib cage lengthens away from the pelvis. Shoulder heads lift. You might be able to find a little more extension, no tension in the arms. Maybe the palms can come to one another. Armpits move up into the shoulders. Shoulders relax away from the arms. Are you straight? Crease of the wrist moves towards the curve of the wrist. Elbow moves from crease to cap. Upper arm bones are going to draw away from one another, but the arms are going to externally rotate. So the skin of the armpits moves forward from back to front, and the outer upper arm moves up towards the sky. Inner lower arm rotates in, so between the thumb, wrist, and the elbow, that part of your arm is drawing to one another. Use all your connections. Inhale to lift your forehead, your shoulders, and your arms. So you can have your arms interlacing and reaching towards the back as you up. Nice, some of us could be palms apart like this, no harm, no foul. Or if you had the interlacing, really thinking about someone holding onto your hands and pulling your arms towards the back. Oops, right. Scared Chandra. Big, beautiful breaths. Lifting the arm bones up, but not higher than the shoulders, Laura. Lift the shoulders down. Yep, there we go. Keep on breathing. Do you have wrinkles in the backs of the neck? Get rid of the wrinkles in the backs of the neck. And then coming down one disc, one vertebra at a time, nice and slow. Really taking your time. Palms facing up, turn and look one way. Toes touching, heels coming apart. Remember which way you're looking, and let's do the opposite interlacing. So forehead's going to come back down onto the floor. You can have the palms facing up like you did in the last pose, or you can interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right, if you can straighten out the arms. Start with your toes, go all the way up to your nose, and find your checklist. It's the same stuff all day, just remembering what you can remember. And then when you're ready, keep your feet down, float up. Breathing. Armpits lift into shoulders, shoulders drop back onto those armpits. Keep zipping your belly, keep moving the flesh of the butt away from the low back. Find those nice down dog arms. Lifting those shoulder heads. And then when you're done, you're done. Come down one disc, one vertebra at a time. Let those palms face up and turn and look the opposite way. Jane, can your toes point in and your heels point out?
Yes.
Beautiful waves of breath up and down the spine. Then pay attention to your neck. Are you wrinkling? Can you find more of a neutral neck? Sometimes we're turtlenecking in a neck twist. Again, we don't want any tension or discomfort, but just seeing if you can find more of a neutral position. Yeah, unless it feels like too much.
Feels left. This way for spinal twist.
What's that?
Movement for spinal twist.
The line down. Yeah. And you can do it in your seated, which we're going to do next, but when you do it in your seated, I want your head to really go last because I want you to set up the course, right? I want you to set up the turn with the spine and the shoulders and the abdomen, and then the head goes. So just 3 more breaths here, and then we're going to come up to your tabletop position, transitioning over our elbows or our hands. Here's a 25-minute video of the simple back bends. It's so full on and so never ending, but it's also very good. Just so you know. All right, so let's look at the simple, the twists, okay? So this is a great one because you don't need any props and anybody can do it. If you need to come closer to C, come closer to C. So not everyone can find the center of their sit bones here, right? So if you're not open enough in the hamstrings, the low back, the upper back, it's going to look like this, right? And there's just no twist that's going to happen even in this body, right? So the trick is to get them to lean back so that they can find that straight spine and try and find the center of their sit bones, right? So a couple ways to do that is to put them on height. If you don't have height, you can still usually find it. So we're just going to bend that leg, bring that leg over, interlace, and you just get them to lean literally back. And then the trick with twistings is shoulder heads back, armpits forwards, getting the crown in line with the tailbone. So you can do that here, instead of leaning back, or you can find center of the sit bones here, right? Really active legs are important so we're not twisting at the pelvis. And then we think all those creases, all those leg muscles, we find our elbows. I really like 90-degree angle arms, right? So we find the length, whether it's here or whether it's here. And then I always keep one hand to support the spine because as soon as you let go of the arm, your arm stops using muscles and then all of a sudden they go into this. And you just can't twist there. Shoulder heads, right? Revolving your mid upper back. So I keep one hand, I bring one hand behind, and then I lift my armpits up, I relax my shoulders down, I think hip flexors to butt. We start at the base, so the pelvis stays. First thing I think about moving is my lower abdomen. So I go to my lower left abdomen, I pull it in, and I tuck it in underneath my right ribs, right? And then I take right ribs back, back ribs forward, right? And my shoulders haven't changed. And then I stop because I've hit my edge, and then I pause, and I check, 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 check. I lengthen, I do all my checklists. Eventually your checklists are a thought, right? Right now it's probably quite a long time, but eventually it's like literally 1 second, right? And then I think, okay, do I have the space to put my elbow here, or will that cause me to go out of my checklists, right? And forever people are going to do this and go to their checklists, and that's okay, it's not bad, but they're not ever going to get a full rotation, but it's not bad, right? And you don't want to hound somebody who just doesn't want to listen to you, because what's the point? It's seriously a waste of your breath. So, bam, bam, some people can do this, and then they can use their arm to root, and then you do the same checklist. You find your toes all the way up to your pelvis, that's your base. Find your sit bones, pelvis, right? And then you can lengthen from belly to right ribs. Back ribs can come forward. I think my elbow creases, my armpit creases, my shoulder creases, my sternum bug, broaden my collarbones, and then I can just turn my neck super easily, if that makes a little bit of sense. Weights even on the butt, right? If we go like this and then we crank our necks, right? It's so tension causing, like instantly I'm like, ooh, yuck. And that's how you get a lot of pinched nerves. But that, we don't have to really worry about that stuff. For real, it's super mobile people. Different people won't go that deep. All right, so should we look at that in our own bodies? So remember, heart and then head. You lead with the heart and then you follow with the head. So finding your Tadasana, right? And you can always lean back a little bit to find that Tadasana, but seeing if you can find the center of your sit bones. You can roll your pelvis a little bit. Feel that the weight's even in the sit bones, right? Is one forward, one back. Just find it. And then lift and lengthen out of that pelvis. Let's do left, just because I just did right. Bend the left leg, draw the left leg over the right. Now, some people can't do that. They just keep their foot on their own side, right? It's either a flexibility issue or a size of the thigh issue. Interlace your fingers, left hand on top of right over the shin, and then do all your checklists. Crease of ankle to heel, crease of knee to kneecap, hip flexor to butt, calves lifting to shins, front thigh to back thigh, inject your femurs. And then find that nice base, zip your belly, sit bones root evenly, lift and lengthen your spine. Are your ears over your shoulders, even if you're way back here? Are you hunching? Can you find your elbow creases, your armpit creases, the external rotation of the upper arm, the crease of the armpit moving forward, the elbow crease moving to the elbow cap meeting it, front of the wrist to back of the wrist, all the fingertips, all the joints, ears over shoulders. Can you lengthen the ears away from the shoulders, lengthening up through the crown? Check, 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 check. Keep your check. Left hand comes, right hand comes behind you to support you. So now this hand is here, and you can use both hands to keep that nice straight spine, and you just start to twist. Arms are really active. So we start with the lower belly. Right lower abdomen pulls in and slides and tucks underneath the left ribs. And then back, right rib cage moves forward without popping the ribs. Front left ribs move back. Again, wrists, elbows, armpits, shoulders, everything is still working to create resistance. Maybe after here I can go check, 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 lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. Maybe my elbow comes outside the knee. But if it causes this entire right shoulder to move, I'm not going to go any further than that, and I'm better to keep my hand here with the lift in that right armpit, right chest. And then just check, check, check again, and then lower abdomen to rib cage, back rib to front rib to back rib, heart center lifting, sternum above broadening, collarbones broadening, armpit chest lifting, and then turn the gaze. Without speaking, fix it. Sometimes we know. Something's different.
She's like a disciple.
That got me kicked out of yoga school, like literally for a day in India. Just in the wrong way, yeah. That's a good lesson. And just breathing into that. Really lift those armpits up. Reach gently with the elbows, extension, no tension. Back of the skull rooting back, forehead rooting forward. Lengthen with those ears. That's much better, Jim. Right shoulder head back, right armpit lifting. Are the two sides of the torso even? Let's just take a few more breaths on this side. And then unwinding back to center, interlace your fingers. Big inhale to lift and lengthen, extension, no tension. You can move your neck. Let's do the pregnant lady twist. Right hand stays where it is, left hand comes behind us, shoulder heads back. So again, we move the abdomen and then the wrist. Legs don't move at all. Maybe the elbow comes to the inside of the knee when you use the leg against the arm against the leg to twist a little bit deeper. First the belly, then the ribs, then move it up to the under the shoulders. Shoulder heads back, armpits up, and then eventually the head just goes. Leg pushes into arm pushes into leg.
So are we twisting the opposite way?
Yeah. Doing it exactly the same, but the other way. Pregnant lady twist, turn for the belly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then eventually the arm comes to the inside of the knee. Nice. Leg pushes into arm pushes into leg. It helps you find the crease of the elbow connection. Right foot roots. Just a shorter hold on this side. It's just nice to feel the difference, hey? So good for the shoulder blades. And what does the pregnant lady need? the shoulder blades.
I was gonna say good night's.
Yeah, true that too. A lot of things. The partner who does the dishes and rubs their feet. And then unwind back to center, interlace your fingers, nice big inhale to lift and lengthen, shoulders back, and then swap it out. Left leg comes over right because it's the left side, interlacing left fingers over.
The other way is.
Other side then, to the other side.
Okay, yeah.
That's it. Find the center of the heel, find your feet, find all your checklists from your toes right up to your nose. You can even practice it as a tighter person and lean back, shoulder heads back, armpits forward. Keep your hand to support you, bring the opposite hand behind you. Again, really think about moving at the waist, at the ribs, at the sort of rib cage shoulders, not the actual shoulders, and then pause. Maybe the elbow goes, maybe it doesn't. If it causes the shoulders to pop out of alignment, go back to the hand, and then abdomen, lower ribs, mid ribs, upper ribs, leg into arm into leg, sternum bug, armpit chest, collarbones, and then gaze. So often we get this jamming once we twist of that right arm coming into the shoulder, so the right shoulder lifts, then you just have to find the elbow crease moving away to get rid of that not having extension, and go to find extension, no tension. So when you twist, you just kind of move into that arm. And just breathing into it. And then again, see if you can find it. Lower abdomen to right rib. And then go lower ribs, back to front, front to back, mid ribs, back to front to back, armpit type rib area, back to front to back, armpits lifting, check, 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 check. Broaden those collarbones, just breathing into it. So much better, Nicole, you feel that, hey?
So move that abdomen thing,
Yeah.
just,
Well, and now there's no jamming in your neck. Before we were getting a
Yeah.
really shortening on one side of your neck. Yeah,
this feels good.
yeah. So that was a good change from Thursday. Yay. And the trick is you just gotta keep practicing this because this is an important connection for you. And if you don't practice it this week, then you'll have to relearn it again most likely. So that is your homework. Let's go 5 more breaths here. And then unwind back to center, interlace your fingers, it's right leg on top, so it's right hand on top, lengthen, 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 bring it back to neutral. Just think about what that's doing for your digestive system, right? Good stuff. All right, find your stakes, arm stakes, bring the left hand behind you, use it as a stake to keep the spine nice and supported, twist at the lower abdomen, twist at the lower ribs, move it up the ribs, up the ribs, up the ribs. Use the back arm stake, move the inner arm in, arm pushes into elbow, elbow pushes into arm. Before you twist deeper, check, 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 check. Can you lengthen? Can you get the armpits level? Can you get the shoulders level? Have you lost your ankles? You know your habits. If I've said it to you 3 times this class, it's a habit, right? If I've said it to you 5 times this month, it's a habit. And then if you fix that habit, then I can start to pick on the next habit. Right abdomen to left ribs. Check, 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 check. Move the ribs from bottom to top. Almost like 3 twists to get the ribs. And then make sure the neck is set up. Shoulders, armpits, collarbones, sternum bug, neutral neck. Easy to shake it now. And then slowly turn the gaze behind you. Arm pushes into leg, leg pushes into arm, looking for that right level of stretch. Just go 3 more breaths on this side. Nice work, everybody. We've seen some good learning today. Changes in everybody's habits. Nice. And then when those 3 reps are complete, unwind, lift and lengthen. And that's pretty deep, so let's bring our feet down, let's hug those legs. Normally that you rest your neck, just relax for the next 1 minute, so you can hug yourself when you come onto the floor, and I want to look at porpoise pose or shavasana. So, this is the best pose. It's some people's worst pose and some people's favorite pose. It's Johnny's favorite pose. But we want it is a pose. So we're gonna come down. Again, we find a neutral pelvis. I always take my hair out, right? Because you would not believe how many headaches are caused by hair. And I always give myself a little head massage. I'm not saying you have to, but after 32 years of yoga, I'm telling you it makes a difference. And then I think first, I find my pelvis, I lengthen the back of my skull, and I just start there. Then I find my neutral pelvis, I find my length, I bring my arms out, I push into my elbows to relax my shoulders, find my shoulder hammocks, bring it down. Sometimes I lengthen my neck again, but I don't have to today. I can feel that it's all good. And then I find my neutral pelvis, I think of my ribs, I keep with my natural spine, sandbags on my shoulder heads, and then one at a time, I straighten my legs, and then I find Tadasana. And then because I don't have any knee stuff, I just let it go from here. And then this tells me, and I can tell, you can see it's very slight, but my left brain is tighter than my right. Because I thought I was a dancer at 10 o'clock at night after a box of popcorn, a bowl of popcorn. But you can see it. You see how my left toe is closer to center than my right. It'll release a little bit, but even in the end of my shavasana, I'm always doing that. Again, it's cows, right? It's just reading bodies. If it's intense on the knees, then the feet go wide, right? But you're going to get more of a release on the knees with those feet together. It'll be more of a release on that inner knee where I'm tight, like right through here. But for some people, that's too much. If we had knee or back stuff, you know the drill. Bolster underneath the knees, serious back stuff, 2 bolsters underneath the knees, right? Neutral neck. So if someone needed to have support under their head, they'd have support there. So let's come down onto our backs, and let's just do a little more back release because that was a lot of twisting. So just give your legs a hug. And then when you're ready, come into your shavasana thinking about what I taught you. So you find your pelvis base, and then you lengthen out of it. You then release the shoulders. You can give yourself a head massage if that's your thing. Then you find your arms, relax the shoulders, release the shoulders, and then you find your legs. Or not. Know your habits. Do you shorten the back body? Do you create tension in your throat? Do you have a shortening on one side of your torso more than the other? Are you an overextender? Are you pulling the arm bones too far into the shoulder socket? Remember how I demoed on Anna when I brought her arms truly to a piece of pie, how that released her shoulder heads? Do you have a hard time being straight when you need to? Check, 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 check. See what you can find.